Week, but it was nice to have your company. We're going to pass you over to Greg Hughes. Greg, you're going to be busy today on the show.
Yes, Lee. Loads coming up on the programme. Still trying to figure everything out. I'm new at this.
No, how you're talking about it. I went to Caroline about 2 seconds ago. I says, I'm going to say to Greg, you have a busy show today. And I bet you his response is big. But Lee, I have a busy show every day.
Yeah, but everyone says that coming up, it's a busy show. You do it every day. I do it every day. Everyone does it every day. But normally we follow through on it.
Ah, you do your best.
Can we have a great weekend?
You too.
That's your first week back out of the way.
Yeah, it's nice.
Nice. You started off with a gentle 4-dayer anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good man. Take care, Lee. All right, it is the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Lots coming up on the programme, and that is a fact. Leo Varadkar will be joining us a little later on, and our Friday panel will be joining us very, very soon. But at 9am, it's time for a news update. Good morning, Micheal Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Disabilities Minister says work is continuing in conjunction with the Department of Health and the Department of Equality to develop a review of safeguarding at disability centres in Donegal. Minister Anne Rabbitte has this week called for that to be an independent review. She was speaking in the Dáil last night during a topical issue debate on a HICWA report published last week, which identified a number of governance and safeguarding shortcomings during inspections at 18 HSC-run disability centres in Donegal. The debate also heard further calls for the Branton report to be published. Minister Rabbitte says work is ongoing with regard to ensuring the protection of service users.
We need to look at the social care model and stop calling issues like episodes, whereas understanding what that pattern came from and knowing how to support the staff, but most importantly, the service user. Work is underway, Deputy Pringle, and I hope with the cooperation of Minister Donnelly and Minister O'Gorman that this will be expedited, as in we hope to have a framework by June.
Counting is underway in the Northern Ireland Assembly elections. It's expected to be a historic election as, according to opinion polls, Sinn Féin are on course to become the largest party in the North for the first time. The Alliance Party is also expected to secure a large number of Assembly seats. However, the DUP's vote is likely to be reduced. Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis is appealing to all parties to work together once the votes are counted.
We want to resolve the issues with the protocol, but I do think, and we will make the point, that everybody who has taken part in these elections should respect the result of the elections, get back into Stormont, get making those decisions that can move things forward for people in Northern Ireland.
Food shortages could lead to a new migrant crisis for Europe. That's a warning from Midlands North West MEP Colin Markey. The war in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia are raising serious questions about the supply of food. Mr Markey believes it could trigger a new wave of migration from Africa towards Europe. He says the EU has a moral responsibility to act.
The knock-on effect of, let's say, a famine in somewhere like North Africa means a potential immigrant crisis of a different sort into Europe that's not war-driven but famine-driven. That has a knock-on effect for Europe, so even though Europe has its own food security, this issue is of a major concern to Europe.
Weather now, rain will clear later this morning and into the afternoon, with highest temperatures today of 13 to 15 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Could the KFC popcorn sharing bucket be our soundest deal ever? It just might. 80 pieces for €8. Stop the lights. Pop in store, sure, give it a lash. Get a serious feed with more for your cash. 80 pieces of popcorn based on average serve. Ends June 12th at participating restaurants. Offer is available in store only, subject to availability.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Just about to turn 4 minutes past 9 on this damp Friday morning. It's the 6th of May 2022. Hopefully we have your company now for the next 3 hours on the programme, and we want your views and your comments and your input as we hear from our Friday panel and throughout the show. You can contact us on the usual numbers, of course, your WhatsApps and texts to 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. You can also call Caroline on 07491 25,000. If you want to watch the programme, hop on to our website right now, highlandradio.com. You should see the link there to click and watch in browser. Or if you wish, go straight to our YouTube page, Highland Radio Ireland, or our Facebook pages, and give them a like and hit the bell, and it'll let you know when we're going live on this programme and on others as well. Okay, let's introduce our panel. Damien Dowds, editor of the Inishowen Independent. He'll be logging logging into us very, very shortly. We can say good morning now, though, to Councillor Ian McGarvey, Independent in the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District. Good morning to you, Ian McGarvey. How are you keeping?
Good morning, Greg, to everyone as well.
It's good to have you with us. Eimear McGuiness, Donegal Livestock Manager, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
It's good to have you with us. Okay, we'll start with politics, if that's okay. Joe McHugh made his announcement during the week that he's leaving politics and that he's going to see out his final 2 years. That wouldn't be a job I'd fancy, but I suppose he's getting paid for it. But it'd be like being a dead man walking politically. But obviously then he's going to step away, do his own thing. What do you think this will do to the political landscape in Donegal, Eimear, if anything? Because, he is Fine Gael's sole representative in the Dáil from Donegal, and with the best will in the world, there doesn't seem a natural replacement for him there just yet.
Well, I would say, I assume he has discussed this with the party long before we heard about it. I wish him all the very best of luck in whatever he chooses to do. I suppose, he has been in politics since 2007. I'm sure he wants to go do his own thing now. We probably won't hear the whole reason behind. He says he wants to spend time with his family. Putting all that aside, as you say, what's it going to do for Fine Gael and Donegal? It'll be interesting to see geographically what's going to happen. Martin Harley, I know I was at the last count in Letterkenny, and Martin Harley did very, very well, surprisingly well, which in turn he gave a lot of his transfers then to Joe McHugh. So I would think maybe that's a possibility. But yes, you'd like to think they'd be picking up another seat, or they'd be looking at running more candidates across the county because, they'll have to. Because to have in the last election just the one TD, you'd think they'd be pushing for two, definitely to be running three. But where they'll be based will be anyone's guess.
I wonder, is it kind of a testimony to where the party is in the county, and that, you're speaking to us from South Donegal, of course, back in the day, obviously Dinny McGuiness was a stalwart there. Barry O'Neill probably would have had his aspirations, which would have been pretty much dashed with the redrawing of election boundaries. It's surprising that there's not really maybe more of a, and I hope I'm not doing anyone a disservice, but, an obvious candidate even from the south and west of the county that could step forward. I know there's some speculation of a Dublin-based candidate. We'll talk about that a little later on. But, there's no one there, again, that obviously springs to mind, with all due respect to those, to the party's members.
Yeah, well, you would have had a lot of sitting councillors, over the years. And I know John Boyle would have done an awful lot of work here in Killybeg base. But as for who's going to take on the role of a TD, it doesn't, I know at other parties you'd kind of be thinking, well, they'll run, but it's very hard to think who they'll put forward for that party. So I don't know.
Could you be tempted, Eimear?
Definitely not. I'd be thinking more of the lines of Joe.
Councillor McGarvey, you'd have worked with Joe McHugh over the years, of course, at various levels. Were you surprised at his decision to step away in the timing of it? I mean, we are in the middle of the Micah crisis. There are those that would have thought that he would have run again and seen it through, that he's jumping ship.
Greg, I would look at it from a point of view, is 23 years there. The contribution he has made over the years is quite dramatic as well. Now, if you just look at the position of a hold there, it is so difficult to achieve many of the things you'd like to see happen. You can have all kinds of ambition and so on to acquire certain facilities for the area that he represents, and indeed for the county. And for far too long, it has been a challenge from anyone going from Donegal as a representative to acquire the needs of Donegal at the present time. Because if you look at council level, from council level up, I've always referred to the fact that council and councillors and so on are depending on our TDs and ministers who are appointed to deliver for the council and indeed for the people, because if you look at the present time, democracy is so important, and anyone who looks at the world scene, even a professor from America has written, democracy is under attack from authorization. So you can realize, to represent the people in a democratic manner and carry out their views as desired. It is a difficult challenge for the Legate, Joe. Because
it's very well rewarded, though. You know, I mean...
Well, everybody can talk about rewards. If you look at people like in his position, it's 24 hours. It's a full year occupation. Mm-hmm. You may not be sitting in Dáil Éireann, but at the same time.
But you see, this is what I don't get when politicians, particularly politicians, say this as if, you know, the rest of society, you know, works 4 hours a day and has people that look after. The people listening to you right now are working 8-9 hours a day. I know people that are working 2 jobs. Some of them are working for $8.50 an hour, some for $10.50 an hour, and then they go home and then they have to look after their children and they have to do their homework with them and they have to feed them and they have to try and make the little money they have spread between electricity, running a car, putting food on the table. If you're looking for anyone to have sympathy for how under pressure a politician is in terms of work, you're barking up the wrong tree with me, Councillor, because the people out there, you know, they're the ones that are doing the heavy lifting, the long hours, and have very little to show for it financially at the end of the week, and things are only going to get worse.
Greg, I can wholeheartedly agree with what you've just said, because both people are working on a marriage at the present time. I realise the challenge it is to address all the issues that you're talking about, Greg. But when you talk about the role that a TD and ministers have, that's an obligation to, I feel like, present an equalisation and consideration for all the views you've expressed, Greg. But shall I say to you again, when you sit in council and feel helpless and feel that, we'll say, the needs of the people that you're there, because you have one duty and when you're elected, a duty of care to the people, number one, to represent the people who elect you and to have an interest in the public interest as well and see what goes on there. So when we talk about what I was more or less referring to, we as councillors, actually, I've always referred to that council. We are very dependent on the people like Joe McHugh and any minister or anything else representing the interests of the general public. To address the issue that you've just referred to.
All right, do they deliver? Do you believe they deliver for Donegal?
I don't think, with respect, Greg, they're being addressed, because if you look at somebody in the world that the president has a standing of, let's say, 275 billion, and another second person has 253 billion. There's no interest in distribution and the distribution system whereby that the people. Because I refer to democracy. Democracy is under attack.
I know, I get what you're saying, and individuals are individuals. But listen, we're struggling here to put oil in our fuel tanks. We're having to fight to have the right to burn turf or to distribute turf locally. And oil companies in the first 3 months of this year have quadrupled and tripled their profits when apparently there's a scarcity of oil. So there's an awful lot going on there that is not right. Eimear, in terms of, you know, the obvious replacements, in the conversation with Joe McHugh, I understood he referenced obviously McGuiness in the show, and Harley in Ballabafface and Orla Kavanagh in Letterkenny. I'll be interested to hear what Leo Varadkar's views might be a little later on. Is the time right now for maybe Fine Gael to look at the gender profile of its representation in Donegal?
Well, yes, definitely. We haven't seen any female candidates from them, have we? Ever?
Female candidates.
Sorry, Damien. Damien joins us now. Damien, Dowds. What were you saying there, Damien?
Look forward, Damien.
Oh, sorry. Here, no, I'm just logged in here. I'm still on hands-free. I think there's quite a number of female candidates for Fine Gael at the last election. They weren't elected, but you know the people can't be made elect people based on their gender. But Fine Gael tried quite a number of. In Donegal, they ran a good number. Micheal McGarvey ran here in the Nishon electoral area.
Eimear in Letterkenny, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bernie Moore, did she run in that? So there was a number. Fine Gael tried, and look, it's one of the things that all the parties are going to have to do. I think there's an increased requirement on parties to put. I think maybe the quota for candidates is up to 40% for forthcoming Dáil election. So, I mean, clearly, Eimear's point is right that I think we have 4 county councillors in the county out of 37 who are female. But every party will probably need to try and improve the number of female candidates, identify female candidates for running. But
the problem with that, Damien, the problem with
getting them elected isn't a different thing.
Yeah, but that's it, Damien. But what the problem with that is that what you may have seen in the past is that, you know, those that have been around for quite some time resist this, whether they do it publicly or privately, who is to say? And it does require an element of, you know, the old guard stepping to one side to give people a decent run. I mean, that's probably what stopped, you know, good female representatives getting elected out of parties in the past.
Yeah, that's always the thing. And look, the sitting councillor or the sitting TD definitely has an advantage, or the well-established candidate has an advantage. But I suppose the only way to try and change it is to select female candidates. If that's the objective of these quotas, you select the candidates, and then it's up to the people. And the people, in their wisdom, don't always vote on the basis of gender. And you know, I think that's probably something that we all miss. You know, people can't be made vote one way or the other. You can put candidates in front of them, regardless of their party or regardless of their gender, and people will vote the way they vote, and they won't be made vote one way or the other.
But to give them the best chance, you have to actually make sure that they have a decent run-in and they have all the same levels of support that other candidates have. I'm not saying that's not been the case, but Eimear, personally, I think that's going to be a priority for Fine Gael, and I think they're giving themselves 2 years to sort of to try and address the gender situation, Eimear.
Definitely. You know, it is, I suppose, as Damien just said there, they need a chance, they need a foothold. You know, I tried to get into local politics, so I see where that's going. You don't have the same, as a sitting politician, you don't have the same tools, I suppose, at your disposal as a lot of them do. You find that coming up for the last year, and I suppose we're coming up to local elections, you'll probably see the politicians have become very active now next year, and they'll be promising the sun, moon and stars to everybody, because that's the way it works. And sitting politicians, sitting councillors, sitting TDs, it's the same old. They can promise this because the tools are at their disposal to do so. Whereas somebody coming new into the fold, who really probably would have more energy, I would say, for the first few years and have all these things they want to do and would be very good if elected, they don't have the same tools at their disposal.
Did you feel that you got? Do you feel you were given every chance in the support you received?
No, but that's probably a whole different. I did get support, but probably there was a whole lot going on in our own party at that time.
That's what I was wondering. You know, I mean, because
you know, one pulled against the other, and that was it worked to our disadvantage in the end. So that's it. That's me being honest about what happened there. But yes, it wasn't looked at correctly, and we suffered. And suffered across the board, I think, in the election.
All right, Damien, do you think, you know, either Joe McHugh or indeed Cllr McGarvey could get elected off the back of support out of Inishowen with everything that's going on?
Well, I suppose it depends on when the election's held, Greg. Like, you know, I mean, if you're asking me, could they get it done tomorrow? If the election was tomorrow, no, they probably wouldn't. But, you know, the election probably is going to be, 2025, is it? Maybe before it'll have to be held. And by that time as well, I mean, we could very well, it's probably likely that we'll be going away from the single 5-seat constituency and perhaps returning to the 2 3-seaters, which would change dynamics as well. So they wouldn't be elected tomorrow, I don't think. But, you know, within, what are we? We're 2-3 years away from a general election. Who can tell? I mean, it's very hard to project that far out.
Yeah. Do you think that say, for instance, Minister Chalmers Conalogue, because politics, you know, a lot of people speculate about it, do you think there's enough time there, enough changes into how the constituencies are set up, and how much progress might be made in Micah, to see him elected in a couple of years? Can you see him sitting in the next Dáil?
Well, I think he's got every chance. Like, you know, he's a minister. He has got a big task on his hand in terms of getting the Micah scheme up and running properly. You know, that's going to be and is going to remain the key issue for 2-3 election cycles probably. So he's got a lot of work, and you know, I'm hearing that the government are to discuss the Micah legislation, which is the next big thing, and actually that's going to be the centre point. That's probably, I don't know, the end of the beginning of the Micah saga, because once the law is put in place, we'll all know where we stand under it, and we'll know and we'll understand how it has to be progressed through then. But that's just the start. That's just the end of the beginning, because actually delivering that and getting that done, and that's going to take a lot of time. If that legislation, the government has said they're going to get it passed before the summer recess. I hope they do, but I find that hard to believe because the clock is completely against them at this stage. So if they don't get it passed before the summer recess, they don't return until September after their nice holidays, and by that stage it's all about budget. I mean, it's beyond important that they get this done before they get it complete before the summer recess, and that applications under the new scheme are being accepted immediately, and the money starts to flow.
And current applications progress. The scheme is
progress
stalled.
through. They're all kind of sitting. They're all kind of sitting in kind of limbo at the moment, because the conditions that are there under Scheme 1, the 90-10 scheme, are going to be adapted and maybe changed a bit under Scheme 2. So homeowners, the council itself, nobody really is sure where they can be, and it's an incredibly frustrating time. So, in the context of running a general election, that Charlie McConlogue would be in a lot of trouble if there is an election this week. He'll be hoping that the MICA scheme gets up and running, that homes start to be repaired under it in the years ahead of the next general election. But I mean, there's been other there's other steps that he can take as well, both as the Minister for Agriculture, and there's been a large number of announcements of substantial funds of money coming to the Inishowen Peninsula, everything from there's a big project out at Fort Dunree, there's a large project in the centre of Cairn, there's the Greencastle Breakwater and so on. So a lot of money has been committed to the county. The problem, and to this part of the county, into the Inishowen electoral area, where Charlie and Padraig McLaughlin are obviously the two key vote getters here. But the difficulty with that is money is announced and it might take 4 or 5 years to spend it. So, the natural slowness of the bureaucracy when it comes to delivering on the promises that is made, it probably works counter to the kind of the electoral cycle. And that's to nobody's advantage, including the people who need those things, who need Fort Dunree done, or who need the 3-school campus up and running in Buncrana, or who want the centre of Cairn redeveloped, or the fishermen that need the breakwater built long before now. The pace at which the government and the state moves in delivering projects is appalling. And that really, if anyone could ever get that fixed, they'd get my vote.
Okay. Looks like you won't be voting in the next election in any which way.
Maybe never.
Councillor Ian McGarvey, finally, just on when we were talking about sort of the gender balance, it's not just gender either. It's a council or a Dáil that represents all of society. I mean, you've sat down at a few council meetings over the years, more than anyone else. And you must look around and go, is this really representative of my county in 2022? You'd hope to have seen more progress.
Greg, shall I just say to you, look at the political system in Donegal for years. It hasn't changed very much. And Damien's right what he says, the direct application of a decision when taken is so frustrating, nobody even knows will it ever transfer. Damien, it's one of the biggest problems that I see about discussion, because I referred to the democratic decisions when taken and everything else. To apply them is a different thing. Now, nobody can promise anything along those kind of lines, owing to the circumstances and how the system works. And I reckon if you look at the entire system, from revenue, from social welfare, or any of the systems that he refers to within government, it's unbelievable if you go on the telephone, how long you could spend 20 minutes even with social welfare. And the many places you're supposed to tap to get to go on the web and all the rest of it, nobody has considered the handicapped people, the elderly people, or others who don't have the opportunity of accessing it through the online system. So therefore, there's a terrible lot of people being left out of the system because they just don't bother. And I know at the present time, there are many people losing benefits and so on. And I was just on the last day, and an official in social welfare referred to the fact of even the difficulty of getting through to talk to someone directly.
Yeah, but that's not.
But
that's by design, not accident, isn't it? I mean, it's the same with the companies. They give you like 8 options to press, so that you go, stuff it, I'll use web chat. What's the point? I'm not waiting till number 7 and then between 1 and 8, there's nothing that I could press that would help me in any way, shape, or form. That's the direction of traffic. We're never going to get that back, Councillor, as much as we all would like to see it. I mean,
but Greg, in fairness,
half of this chat stuff you talked about on the internet, by the way, is artificial intelligence. It's not even real people. Go ahead, Councillor.
In fairness, Greg, every elected representative there to serve the people. Every representative has an obligation to ensure that those things happen. But they're not happening. And why are they not happening? Because the people who sit at the head of things go along with what we'll say the system has been for years. And the system has been for years has failed the people, in my opinion. And needs to be addressed in the areas that are referred to.
Okay. Because
you can take someone sitting and you refer to, we'll say, people on income levels and all the stuff of the day and the needs that they have. And they can't be met, and they feel totally frustrated trying to get them solved. And I think under the Constitution, Section 40 and 41, there's an obligation of all us to ensure that our people are treated equally, no matter who they are. They should not have to come to somebody like me to get something done. They should have a right to it straight away.
Yeah, for sure. Stay there. Damien, you mentioned about a redrawing of the boundaries. What's the likelihood there? Would that include part of South Donegal coming back into the actual south of Donegal again? I don't know how much reading up you've done on that, or how much info you have on that. Well, what's the speculation there?
There's a good chance of it, Greg. So it's based on the census. So there's going to be a boundary commission established, which will redraw or look at the redrawing of Dáil constituencies after the census results come out. And the preliminary results are due in the summer, so they're going to be able to calculate then the population. It definitely looks like at the moment there's 160 TDs in the Dáil. I mean, the census or the CSO are projecting that we're going to have a population of more than 5 million. So that would, with absolute certainty, increase the number of TDs there.
Yay!
Perhaps. Well, look, this is it. It's set out in the Constitution that there's one TD for every 20,000 to 30,000 people. So at a minimum, we're going to be getting an extra six TDs, and the likelihood is we could get more than that. And what that would, if Donegal's population, which was sitting at I think it was just under 160,000 in the last election, if that goes up to 170, 180,000, if it got to 180,000 for the whole county, including that part of South Donegal that has been hived off, you'll be back probably at 2-3 seaters again.
I'd be back in Donegal.
Well, that's it. And look, I mean, it probably,
that changes the dynamics, Damien. Thanks. Doesn't it as well, Eimear, from a South Donegal perspective? If Bundoran and Ballyshannon come back into the fold, it kind of, it's not in a massive way, but I can see more clearly, people's pathways to sort of candidacy. I don't know if you feel the same, Eimear.
Probably, yeah.
Don't tell me you don't care about Lahey, Ballantrae, Ballyshannon, Bundoran, because it feels like you don't really care.
Of course I do. I work there. Most of my farmers are from there.
Okay.
That's the broadside.
But yeah, probably would.
And Pettigo.
It would certainly help Fingale.
Yeah.
With regard to putting candidates forward. So. Yeah, would it help to have more TDs in Donegal doing? Yeah,
I don't know. I just think it would open up a big population base that could. Now you'd be obviously with a 2 or 3 year lead in. Listen, Eimear, thank you for that so far. Eimear McGuiness there. You're also hearing from Damien Dowds and Councillor Ian McGarvey. We'll be back with more from them after these.
The CFC Interior stock disposal sale ends this weekend. Due to overstock, an incredible £1.5 million worth of stock must go. Don't miss our highest ever discount on selected ranges across all departments. The stock disposal sale at CFC Interiors, Derry, Cookstown and Abbey Centre.
On this week's Business Matters, I'll be joined by Buncrana-based Irish designer Bernie Murphy. So join me, Ciara O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. Looking for a career in financial services? Consider the Level 9 MA in Governance, Compliance and Data Protection. Take the next step in your career and contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 or email execed, execed @lyit.ie today.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
It's back. and it's bigger and better than ever before. The one, the only Grove Furnishings, a sale odyssey, your local easy living store.
Grove Furnishings' big anniversary sale is now on at Kiltoy Road, Letterkenny.
A caller says, Greg, did I just hear Councillor McGarvey admit that the county council is just a talking shop and that the power sits in the Dáil? Sure, haven't we been saying that for years? The rot really set in when we allowed ourselves to be bullied by Fine Gael when they introduced property taxes. Well, Ian, you're on the record. You're on the record expressing your frustration at the council being a talking shop. It's no secret.
Greg,
It's not an exclusive.
I haven't a problem, Greg, because I'll tell you why. If you listen and go into a workshop now at the present time, and this is very important for the general public as well, we can't discuss what goes on, and it's not right. Because if we're a democratic system, we need to be open, no covert operation of any kind. Now, regarding the effect of, let's say, I'll cite a set of circumstances for you, Greg.
Briefly, yeah.
13 projects are before us at the present time, going over 5 years. And I think it's a scandal, the amount of money. It's a total of 20 million over the 5 years. But when I look at the Letterkenny, Milford Road and areas like this, that needs addressing, when I look at bridges like Keegee Bridge, Bunland Bridge, Killyarvin Bridge and places like that, small issues that can't even be addressed, Greg. Why is it such a case? Because there's no difficulty, but they need consultants to determine about a bridge. I could go down and measure the volume that bridge provides at the moment and extend it by 20 or 25% or whatever would be necessary, because you can only go two ways with the bridge, and that's either sideways or down. But what I was going to say to you, Greg, they talk about the drain of the Swilly and so on. They talk about flooding of Letterkenny. They talk about so much, and they talk about the need for 4,500 houses or an increase of 15,000 of a population. Greg.
Yes.
So if you look, Greg, proportionally, Donegal County Council will need to provide 360 more houses. They can't buy one house without the approval of the department or purchase a house or build a house.
I mean,
So,
I
Greg,
understand where you're coming from. I do,
Can
yeah.
you understand my frustration?
So, yeah, but is it not then the right thing to do is, rather than lifting, 32 grand out of the council, pack it in? Is it worth it? Is it not just what's the point in being in there if it doesn't serve any purpose?
It even begs the question, possibly the same lines of thought is running through Deputy McHugh's mind at the present time as well.
Well, he says that wasn't the case.
It has been there for 23 years, and it illustrates to me like the frustration that must be in a person's mind. And it's, you talk about income and all the other. Income doesn't arise, Greg, because to me, income's not important.
It's very important to the electorate.
But the well-being of the individual and being looked about and secure in their life.
Our health and happiness is it's a beautiful notion that money isn't everything, but our health and happiness is rooted in how much money you have and that you can care for your family as best as possible. But listen, that's just an opinion, and I respect yours. A caller says, Damien, the only things that have changed since the last election is hospital waiting lists are worse, the MICA issue is worse, homelessness is worse, the cost of living has increased. The problem is politicians are not working together to deliver. They're too busy point scoring. Is that a fair enough assessment, or is that cynical?
I would agree with that, Peg.
All right. I'll come back to you. I want to bring Damien in there and then Eimear. Go ahead, Damien.
That's okay.
Look, I think it's an honestly held opinion. It's a widely held opinion. I think politicians probably do a wee bit more than just score points off one another, in fairness to them. But the MICA situation compared to the last election is actually fairly substantially well improved. Because if they were talking about the last general election, that's in 2020, we only had the 90-10 scheme. Bear in mind, it's less than 12 months since we had the first big marches in Buncrana and Letterkenny, the Paddy Diver-inspired marches in Buncrana and Letterkenny, to highlight the inadequacies of that and to force and push for a new one. And we're told now that within the next window of days that legislation will be published to enact a new law. I mean, that's a massive turnaround. I was complaining earlier that it's taken a year or just under a year from feet on the street in Buncrana and Letterkenny to a new law being proposed in the Oireachtas. That's almost unprecedented. I mean, that is the bureaucracy working at warp speed. It's far too slow for us, and everyone's frustrated because in the age we live in, we want everything now. We need instant gratification. We can't wait 5 minutes for nothing. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that MICA legislation and the new scheme with the improved conditions that are under it and the improved sums of money that are available under it, which we expect to see in a few weeks, and we'll be poring over it very closely to see exactly what it is that the new law is going to contain. But that's a fair old improvement on what went before. Hospital waiting lists, of course, they are, like death and taxes, like they're always with us, I suppose. They are certainly disimproving, but there might have been a reason for that. The 2-year COVID pandemic will certainly have had its a part to play in that as well.
We don't want that to be a smoke screen either, though. But
it's not a smoke screen, because there was what you call it before.
We are presuming though that our how we handled within the health service, how we handled the COVID pandemic was done correctly. That there were certain services, there was no sense for them not going ahead, that weren't going ahead. Some screening services that weren't going ahead when it was one person and one other person in a room, that was all cancelled and people were brought off elsewhere. The GPs not seeing their patients as they did, we don't know if that was the best way of doing it. We can't just say, right, well, because of COVID, did we handle COVID correctly? In hindsight, or even maybe we should have used foresight, could we have said, right, we need to make sure that our solution to the problem doesn't create a bigger problem too, Damien?
Yeah, well, I suppose the thing on COVID is you'd be looking at the excess deaths, and the number of excess deaths that the Republic had isn't that far beyond what might have been expected. So, if the purpose of your health system is to prevent serious illness and death, I would have thought that we did pretty well. Now, there will be, it has certainly, of course it has, sure, naturally it did, and not just in Ireland, but in countries all over. It has delayed treatment, it has delayed diagnosis. And that is going to be something, that's going to be the shockwave of COVID is going to be felt through the health system for an awful long time to come. Never mind the disruption we had from the Russian government hack on our health system last year as well. So we've had, obviously, but waiting lists are going to be, I think, I can't imagine a time when waiting lists aren't with us somehow.
Yeah, of course. The caller says election conventions, etc. during election is a dirty game, a lot of shafting and no one worse than the members of your own party. Surely couldn't be true, could it? I don't see anyone. Eimear, are you nodding at it?
I don't have a party. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, okay. Greg, can you just let everyone know that the Kilmacrennan roads experience serious delays, to let people know to avoid it? Okay, listen, happy to do that. That's a bit time sensitive. It's not about the agenda. It's the party and the policies. The people didn't like Joe McHugh. The people don't like. Didn't Joe McHugh say that to you? Right, okay, yeah, I see the point you're making there. All right, we have lots more to come from
Greg,
our... Yes,
Greg,
go ahead, Ian.
On the Micah situation.
Yes?
I have a letter in my possession from Darragh O'Brien. Established an expert panel to look at the problem of Micah in 2016. That expert panel came out with 8 recommendations about what needs to be done from 2016. Nobody ever heard tell it was presented in 2017 and has not been published. And it's a big problem because Micah is a serious problem. And I know about the building game inside and outside for years. And I think that the people who live in those kind of houses waiting and waiting and waiting. And the other thing, if and when it's decided, the problem and the disruption to their lives as well will be disgraceful. And I know nothing to equal it ever in my lifetime.
No, it's unprecedented scandal and crisis. Councillor Ian McGarvey, thank you for that. Back with more from Ian, Damien and Eimear after these messages.
For a great early season lawnmower deal, visit Gartley Sales and Hire. Exclusive stockists of Stiga in the Northwest. Mowers, trimmers and hedge trimmers. Full trade and service available at Gartley Sales and Hire, Gartley, Letterkenny. Call 9126276.
The Michael English Celebration Tour comes to the Millennium Forum Derry on Wednesday, May the 11th, and the Cllr Arts Centre Oma on Friday, May 20th. Come and join Michael and his super band for a spectacular musical extravaganza, a brand new tour with his best yet. Celebrate once again with a night of non-stop sing-along favourites. It's a show you simply won't want to miss. For more on the Derry show, see millenniumforum.co.uk, and for more on the Oma show, see strewlartscentre.co.uk. For details of all Michael's shows, see michaelenglish.ie.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Sportswear for women at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure in fresh new colours and styles. Nike Pro tees and vests with matching shorts and fitness tights, perfect for working out or just for that leisure look. Under Armour offers new colours, quarter zip tops, t-shirts with matching shorts in different lengths. Complete your fitness look with the latest footwear from Nike, Asics and Brooks. Look the part, play the part, in store or online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Donegal's Ulster Championship campaign continues this Sunday in Clonus, with Declan Bonner's side looking to book a place in the provincial final. But to make the decider, they'll first have to overcome Cavan. Join Oisín Kelly and Brendan Kilcoyne for the build-up and full live match commentary from St Tiernock's Park on Sunday afternoon. Donegal action in the Ulster Championship is brought to you by Highland Motors Letterkenny, your main Renault and Dacia dealer in Donegal, with limited stock of the new award-winning Renault Arcana E-Tech Hybrid, blending sleek coupe lines with a sporty SUV look.
All right, looking forward to that game on Sunday. A couple of games on Sunday, actually, we'll be keeping a close eye on. Conversations rumbling on about the need to increase our military budget spend. We're about 1,000 Defence Force members down. They're looking to bring that up and then increase it by a further 2,000 to just thought of 10,000. I'm just wondering, Eimear, on the wider scale of things, when you're talking to people out and about or at the mart or wherever it might be, a lot of the issues that that are vexing people, that are at the forefront of their minds. I can't imagine an increased spend and increasing the Defence Forces comes up for debate too often, or perhaps it does.
No, definitely not. Look, I see some of the other countries, I suppose, like America, and rightly so, they'll probably think about increasing their Defence Forces. Minister Coveney, he announced 500 million, is it, over the next couple of years. That's an increase of 50%. I'd love to know where he's going to come up with this money. As we were discussing about everything that is wrong, the hospitals, the waiting lists. We're missing a lot of services in our local hospital, Letterkenny Hospital. Everything, like with the cost of living, it's crazy, and yet we're talking about 500 million. Like, what could we do with 500 million? Like, I don't know where they're going to get it. Well, actually, what is going to happen if they increase that, it's going to come back on the people like everything else.
Well, the EU might help bankroll that. They might have a dog in the game as well.
Do you know all this money and the money that came from COVID? And the EU has all this money now, and that's great. That's fantastic. But I could think of so much more that we need to be looking at. We were chatting about before the break, our politicians work very hard. One thing I would fault them for is, especially in each county, and our counties would probably look a lot better, and we do a lot better services if they all did work together, regardless of the party. If you're elected, that's what you should be doing. You should be working with your TD and be putting the pressure on in Dublin. So regardless what their party is, but unfortunately a lot of the time that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think if I was in the Defence Forces just on that issue, their pay and conditions are woeful. They can't speak out about it. They have to rely on their partners to do so. We can't even really fulfil the patrols for the naval vessels. We say they're in getting service, but the truth is they don't have the personnel to run them. And effectively, what we are is a training service for the private sector. People go into the army or into the naval service, get trained up, and then go into the private sector where they'll be well looked after. But if I was one of those that was sticking with it and they were talking about, increasing that number, I'd say, well, hold on a second. Why don't you try and hold on to us first before you start?
Well, that's correct. Are they going to increase their wages? Because you're right, their pay probably isn't up to what it should be. So where are they going to start when they talk about putting this 500 million in? Is it going to increase their salaries and their, as you say, or is it going to just bring in more people into military. And look, there's so much more going on.
Yeah.
I don't see it
like
as-
Damien, I might ask this question later of the Tanaiste. Well, what is the need? I mean, we have a report that said we need the army needs to be bolstered. We need more investment. At the end of the day, you'd have to quadruple, twice the army and our equipment to defend any attack. I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering, what is our need to increase our defence? I mean, fundamentally, we are supposed to be neutral, though, of course, not constitutionally as such. But why? What's this all about? Is this part of a bigger European picture?
No, I suppose there's I was listening to a discussion yesterday between a security analyst and your man Cathal Berry, who's a TD from Kildare, and he's a former soldier and army ranger himself, and they're making the point that Ireland's a complete weak link in Western Europe in terms of not having the ability to be able to see what's in the skies above us and militarily, and see what's in the waters around us. And that's partly because we don't have a sufficiently staffed and sufficiently equipped naval service. And we don't have radar, and our naval ships don't have sonar, so they can't
But
tell.
they're also too busy. They're also too busy trying to stop Irish people fishing in their own waters as well.
Well, that's probably one of the rules. But if you have naval patrols that are going on, absolutely, enforcement of fishing is one thing. The importation of illegal drugs and behaviour by foreign powers, and as we've seen, what the Russians have been up to. You have to be able to be aware of what's happening, so we're able to feed into a wider Western information system that allows people to know what's going on in our territorial waters and in the skies above us. And also, I mentioned earlier the hack that was carried out by the Russian government, or people on behalf of the Russian government, into our health systems to bring our health service to our knees. We're going to have better expertise, and there is a military. We're going to have the ability to defend the country against and defend assets of the country against cyber warfare emanating from whether it's Russia or whether it's somewhere else. But we're going to have the ability to do that, and we don't currently have that. So I think actually the pay for enlisted soldiers is absolutely, and it should be an easy win. They deserve to get a better standard of pay and conditions. They need to have their claims recognised at the labour courts and so on. That should be a complete.
Would we not be better off, though? Would we not be better off asserting ourselves as a truly neutral country? And that does not mean that we don't take a position on the likes of what's happening in Ukraine, but that we reaffirm our neutrality, that we assume the role of peace brokers. I am sure the technology that Britain employs extends beyond Ireland in terms of radar and they're the patrols of the sea. I'm sure they're not going to be relying on us to protect their western flank. So, I mean, that is really the conversation. Should we not be doubling down on our presumed or perceived neutrality?
Well, we've seen the way Britain's behaved through Brexit, so I won't be dependent on Britain for nothing. Ireland needs to look after itself in this regard here. We can retain and we can continue to be militarily neutral. There's no, I think there does need to be a conversation, and the Taoiseach or the Tanaiste will no doubt be talking about that. There needs to be kind of a proper conversation about where our neutrality stands. I look forward to hearing a sensible conversation.
But do you not feel Ukraine is being used to accelerate a move that suits certain people that might not certain other? In other words, to bounce the people of Ireland out of neutrality with fear?
I don't think. Well, I'm not looking to get Ireland to be militarily aligned in any shape or form. I would take an awful lot of persuading to see the merit in Ireland getting involved with NATO or getting fully involved with that. The common defence of the European Union, perhaps a different question because we're part of the European Union. But I would be interested to hear the pros and cons of that in a proper, sensible conversation. I don't see us becoming militarily aligned. I wouldn't be in favour of that at the outset. As I say, I'd take an awful lot of persuading on. But Ireland needs to be able to play its part and needs to be able to defend itself and needs to be able to mind its own territorial waters as well. We can't be sitting depending on the British to send out naval ships or aircraft out to examine what's going on in our waters. We need to take responsibility for that ourselves, and we really need to ramp ourselves up. We probably need to take a look at revamping the FCA, which has been run down in this county in particular because the only base that they're able to go to now is Finner. you probably do need to look at maybe establishing or re-establishing some form of army base north of Finner as well for the county if you want to have something going for the FCA. You're looking to bring in better expertise, even on a part-time basis in that FCA basis, from people who have skills and ability to be able to fight that cyber war.
I get you, Damien, but I mean, we are struggling even just to get a couple of members of a Garda Armed Response Unit based north of Finner, and yet we're talking about spending $500 million on an army because we need to defend our shores. We just can't even get the to protect people in an immediate sense. Eimear, go ahead.
I just think it's crazy. Here we are talking about spending mental money that, we can't have our simple services intact in our counties. We, as you say, we don't have enough guards. Our hospitals need serious money invested in them to be able to look after our people. And yet we're talking about buying equipment and machinery that lie idle. Like, remember the famous photocopier in the Dow that was bought? And it was never used. But I just find it crazy.
Thank God we have that. Thank God we have that to replace their voting machines, because I was getting sick of talking about the voting machines.
There you
are.
There are. Minister Coveney.
Yeah.
He's. I'd rather see him making a statement about looking for money to look after the people. Instead of this.
Even get every Garda station actually having a patrol car, and get everyone who needs to be trained up to drive a patrol car so they can drive it with the blue lights flashing to protect people. That would be great. Ian McGarvey, Councillor Ian McGarvey.
Yeah, Greg, and to all of you, when you look at the Ukraine situation at the moment, when you look at the behaviour of Russia, what kind of force would Ireland need to give protection to the people and to the country? It is unimaginable, that's the first thing. And to throw money at something like that, to me, it's a pure waste, because people refer to, say, the hospitals and so on, and you're going to touch it later, and I hope you will, about the eye and so on. Because, look, there are so many demands on us as a small country. And regrettably, Greg, shall I say, nobody has talked about the effect of increased population, number one, the shared Ireland, number two, that's not being addressed. If you look at we're a divided country, and when you talk about Ukraine, you just compare this country to some years ago. We were in the same situation, we were under attack. And to prove what I was just saying, President McGuiness, ex-President McGuiness, described how it was for life in Belfast during the time when the troubles were on. And here we're sitting here in a small country where we can't coexist and we can't cooperate.
I get you. And that's another issue. But do you think we should not be Greg, increasing spending then, Ian?
I don't think so. I certainly do not, Greg, because I think we'll say, with respect to the army as well, if you take, we'll say, the artillery and warfare stuff that's out there at the present time, what would it represent other than, we'll say, throwing money into something that would say wouldn't be effective? I think that a whole needs to be looked at about the needs, number one, of the country and the protection of the country, as some of them said rightly there. So, but in a manner where they'll say what would be cooperating with others and be shared responsibility for, because if you take the water to run between here and elsewhere as well.
I'd be just interested to see a report published to see what level of an army and what level of spend on resources would be needed to actually be perceived as a deterrent to any invaded forces. Now, I think we'd be far short of that. Okay, Ian, listen, thank you. I do want to talk about the issue of people having to travel to Sligo for eye treatment. They should be able to do it in Donegal. We have about 4 or 5 minutes on that after this break.
There's more than me coming back to the mountaintop, Letterkenny. This month, Restex Beds have just opened their brand new showroom. And if you're like me and you really appreciate a good night's sleep, these guys have brilliant ranges of beds and mattresses. And they have some great offers too. Call in and check out their new showroom, now open just beside us here at the mountaintop in Letterkenny.
They say you should have your second baby first, because with your second baby, you'll have learned what to do, what not to do, what's best for baby and best for you. Like the Loopy Loo range from Lidl. Find everything your baby needs at our Big Baby event, including our award-winning nappies from only 66 cents. When you know what to do, Loopy Loo. Available exclusively at Lidl. More for you.
The Kia Sportage, Donegal's best-selling car for 2022. If you're thinking about making the move to Kia or to upgrade your current Kia, make sure to call in today to iMotors Letterkenny or Malin. With a 7-year warranty as standard, driving a Kia makes sense.
This Sunday afternoon, as part of a huge doubleheader at Clonus, the Donegal senior ladies begin their quest for an Ulster title against Cavan. Join us on Highland for full live match commentary on air from the 1:45 throw-in and online at highlandradio.com. Coverage of the Donegal senior ladies in the Ulster Championship is in association with Henry McGinley and Sons Limited, Milford, Donegal, specialising in structural steelwork, cladding and PVC roof systems. Call for a quote on 074 9153 181.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Gatwick's back. You can now fly daily to London Gatwick with Aer Lingus, the perfect gateway to explore South London. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, the weather forecast. A wet start this morning as rain heavy in places with possible downpours. The rain will clear southeastwards through the late morning and early afternoon with sunny spells and well scattered showers. Temperatures 13 to 15 degrees. Okay, Councillor Ian McGarvey, you've been raising this issue for quite some time. Good to see it getting further media coverage this week. The fact that patients from all over Donegal and as far north as Malin Town, Malin Head are having to go to Sligo University Hospital to receive treatment for chronic eye conditions because of limited ophthalmic services in Letterkenny. This is, and these are the ones that choose to travel if they can. As I said yesterday, I've spoken to people who choose not to travel and allow their eyes to deteriorate because they either can't or don't want to travel all the way to Sligo. In this day and age, with all the money that we're spending all over the place and what we've been talking about, it's completely unacceptable, isn't it?
I fully accept what you just said, Greg, because I'll tell you why. I've been aware of the facilities in Letterkenny. I've been aware of the fact that, we'll say, there is no reason whatsoever that consultants couldn't be brought to Letterkenny to deal with the problems. The equipment's there, everything's there. Now, I had reason to be in the eye clinic there recently myself, and I have discussed it again with the consultant that I was dealing with as well. And there is absolutely no reason whatsoever, but here we have people, and the eyes are so important, Greg.
Why can't they do 1 day clinic a month?
That's what I was just going to say this, Greg. I was going to say, why don't the batch people bring consultants into the county to deal with the problem? Because shall I say to you about an eye a clinic or anything else, the person can't drive themselves. They have somebody need to go with them as well, and maybe take off their work and so on and all the rest of it. I had the reason one time to realise a person who had treatment in Sligo came home at 12 o'clock at night, the eyes started to bleed. The phone Sligo Hospital, do come up, but there'll be nobody to see you till the morning. When they went up and all, there were hardly a chair for them to sit on. They were there after 10 o'clock in the morning before somebody could see them. These are the situations that should not prevail because the eye is so important factor for any individual whatsoever. And I've been raising it for some years because there's facilities there in St. Connell's. And it doesn't interfere with the general hospital, Greg. But the one thing when we talk about hospitalisation, look what has happened, even the heart treatment thing and the diagnosis.
I just want to bring, Ian, I'm not being ignorant. I hope you don't understand that, but we've got 2 minutes, and I just want to stay on this issue of and Damien.
I want to say this before I close.
Yes,
Greg.
please. Yep.
Nobody has yet said if an increase of 15,000 is coming in Letterkenny, which will be equal to the whole borough of Sligo, why we should neglect having the facilities here, particularly in a cross-border aspect as well as the whole northwest.
Of course, and that's why we're talking about it, to try and keep that pressure on.
Well, I think, Greg, it's so important for all of you to be aligned in the same line too as well.
Damien Dowds, you would have come across this story, of course, through your newspaper. Just the pure notion that someone, and generally speaking, they can be an older person being asked to travel to Sligo from anywhere in Inishowen or outside of. It's crazy in this day and age.
From our islands even. From our islands even as well, Greg.
Damien?
It truly is. But it's just it seems to be par for the course for so much here. I mean, I know my own late grandmother travelled to Sligo on a number of occasions to get that very injection from Newton. So, I mean, and it was a matter of one of my aunts taking the day off to bring her down to get this injection in the eye. It's a very short procedure. You'd really wonder that how it can't be delivered up here. But look, it's like so much of the health. It's like there's elections going on in the north today and the count's happening, but like the partition of the country absolutely screws us in Donegal and always has. I mean, this procedure should be available for us in Alpha McGalvin really, rather than having even to run to Letterkenny. We have to run to Letterkenny for everything, and it's not handy for people from Malinahead to go up to get a PCR test. Breast Check used to have a mobile clinic that used to come to Buncrana, and they don't do it no more. They just say, just pop up to Letterkenny. Pop up to Letterkenny from Greencastle, or pop up to Letterkenny from Mal. There's no popping in it. People, unfortunately, one of the ways that the country looks at everything is looked at on a county basis. If there's one of those in each county, that's the
or
county
even a
thing
regional
sorted.
basis.
But our county's too big. Our county's the size of 3 or 4 small counties, and we only get one of these. And in the small counties, they get one, and they're all sitting on top of one another. We're badly caught, and you would think that surely Sálta would have the sense to be able to provide 1 week a month, or whatever the case might be, and assess everybody. But there's clearly no thought. As anybody who ever gets an appointment in Dublin for a thing, we'll see you at 8 o'clock in the morning. You get a appointment in Dublin for 8 o'clock in the morning, necessitating you going down and staying in a hotel overnight. They just think that you're coming from 15 minutes on the road. And the same thought process goes on in Letterkenny Hospital. I see people all the time getting called up for x-rays in Letterkenny when there's an x-ray centre down in Cairn, and we're called to Sligo at the drop of a hat.
Damien.
People don't realise the travelling that has to be done.
Okay, Damien, that's where we have to leave it. Listen, I really appreciate your comments, you joining us as always. Thank you very much indeed. Take care. Damien, Councillor Ian McGarvey, thank you very much for taking the time out this morning to speak with us.
Glad to talk to all of you.
Take care. And last but not least, Eimear, thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon.
Thanks very much.
All right, Eimear, thank you. That was the Friday panel. We'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show, including an interview with the Tanaiste Leo Varadkar, and we have Conor Malone joining Micheal a little later to discuss all things entertainment. And we're going to be answering your legal questions after 10, by the way. So if you've got a question for Seamus Gunn, get in contact with us right now. He'll answer that for you, I hope. Back after the news and obituary notices with Michaela.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Micheal Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The DUP has refused to confirm whether it will enter into the Northern Ireland Assembly if it's headed by a Sinn Féin First Minister. Counting has begun in the Stormont elections in the north, and it's likely Sinn Féin will emerge as the largest party for the first time. Opinion polls suggest the Alliance Party will also gain seats, while a fall in DUP support is expected. The party's Brexit spokesperson, Sammy Wilson, says Sinn Féin's actions will decide the DUP's position.
I think that the question really ought to be to Sinn Féin. Are you prepared to work a coalition in a reasonable way, or are you going to abuse the power which the electorate give you by engaging in acts of petty bigotry which increase division, and in insisting on having your way and not get agreed a budget and a programme for government?
The Disabilities Minister says work is continuing in conjunction with the Department of Health and the Department of Equality to develop a review of safeguarding at disability centres in Donegal. Minister Anne Rabbitte has this week called for an independent review of the facilities to be carried out. She was speaking in the Dáil last night during a topical issue debate on a HICWA report published last week, which identified a number of governance and safeguarding shortcomings during inspections at 18 HSE-run disability centres in Donegal. The debate also heard further calls for the Brandon report to be published. Minister Rabbitte says work is ongoing with regards to ensuring the protection of service users.
We need to look at the social care model and stop calling issues like episodes, whereas understanding what that pattern came from and knowing how to support the staff, but most importantly, the service user. Work is underway, Deputy Pringle, and I hope with the cooperation of Minister Donnelly and Minister O'Gorman that this will be expedited, as in we hope to have a framework by June.
Food shortages could lead to a new migrant crisis for Europe. That's a warning from Midlands North West MEP Colin Markey. The war in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia are raising serious questions about the supply of food. Mr Markey believes it could trigger a new wave of migration from Africa towards Europe. He says the EU has a moral responsibility to act.
The knock-on effect of, let's say, a famine in somewhere like North Africa means a potential immigrant crisis of a different sort into Europe that's not war-driven but famine-driven, and that has a knock-on effect for Europe. So even though Europe has its own food security, this issue is of a major concern to Europe.
A record number of passengers flew between Donegal and Dublin last month. Passenger numbers on the Donegal-Dublin PSO route operated by Emerald Airlines is said to have exceeded pre-COVID levels in April. Donna Marie Doherty has more.
Kieran Smith, head of commercial at Emerald Airlines, says it's clear to see that recovery is well and truly underway, with the record number of passengers availing of flights between Donegal and Dublin in April. He says forward bookings on the route are also looking positive for the summer months, with a large demand for passengers travelling for leisure purposes to Donegal. Minister of State Hildegard Naughton says passenger numbers on the route have exceeded pre-COVID levels. The airline took over from Amapola, which temporarily operated the route and now offers 4 flights daily linking Donegal to Dublin.
Irish Rural Link says broadband must be delivered to rural Ireland. It's holding its 30th anniversary conference in Athlone today, which will focus on Ireland of the 1990s. It believes the rollout of broadband to every household in rural Ireland is taking a lot longer than it had wanted. CEO of Irish Rural Link, Seamus Boland, wants Minister Heather Humphreys, who will be at the event, to invest more in rural hubs.
We will be calling on Heather Humphreys to increase the investment into the hubs, the business hubs and the towns and villages, to make the towns and villages a more suitable place to work for, but also to persuade Enterprise Ireland and other job creation agencies to bring business and industry into the rural towns and villages.
Weather now, rain heavy in places this morning with possible downpours. The rain will clear through this morning and early afternoon with highest temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notice says for this Friday morning, May the 6th. The death has taken place of Ina McLean, Ross Bracken, Letterkenny, house private to family, friends and neighbours at the request of the deceased. Funeral arrangements to be confirmed later. The death has occurred of Angela Kelly, née Granahan, Macmeanstown Convoy. Remains reposing at her home this evening from 5 o'clock. Funeral leaving her home on Sunday afternoon at 2:30 for Requiem Mass at 3 o'clock in St Mary's Church Convoy. Interment afterwards in the new cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, directly to the Donegal Hospice or care of any family member. The house is private to family and close friends only, please. The death has taken place of Winifred McLaughlin, Maharard House, Pillar Park, Buncrana. Winifred's remains are reposing at Porter's Funeral Home, Meanagori, Buncrana, with viewing today and tomorrow from 7 until 10 o'clock only. Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Langmallen on Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock, with burial in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Michael Farn, Mickey Rowe, Muff Road, Culdaff. Michael's remains are reposing at his daughter Pauline's home. Funeral from there on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock for Mass at 10:30 in St Patrick's Church, Aughaclaymallon, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family time please from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. The death has occurred of Hubert Wilson, Inch Post Office, Morris, Inch Island. Hubert's remains will be reposing at the home of Carmel Lynch, The Patch, Inch Road, Burnfoot, today from 11 o'clock until 10:30. House is private from 11:30 p.m. until 11 a.m. Removal tomorrow morning at 10:15 to Our Lady of Lourdes Church, Inch Island for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu of desired to Our Lady of Lourdes Church Webcam Fund, care of Murphy Funeral Directors. Hubert's funeral and Requiem Mass will be recorded and can be viewed on Inishowen Funeral Services Facebook page or YouTube later in the evening. The death has taken place of Porrick Kelly, Glencar House, Glencar, Letterkenny. Porrick's remains will repose in the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest Mountain Top, Letterkenny, this evening from 6 until 8 o'clock. Funeral Mass in St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, followed by interment in Newlack Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to Pieta House, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Josephine Bradley, née Timoney, 38 Beechwood Road, Letterkenny, and formerly Mina Toy, Fintown. Josephine's remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon at 4:15, going to St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny for 4:30 Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards to Conwell Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to Archview Lodge Nursing Home Comfort Fund, care of any family member. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock. The death has taken place of John Doherty, William Briney, Gortfad Clomani. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral leaving from there on Sunday afternoon at 12:15, going to St Mary's Church, Clomani for Requiem Mass at 1 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desire to St Columkill Village, care of any family member or Comsgate Funeral Directors. House private, please, from 10 p.m. until 11 a.m. On the morning of the funeral, family and neighbours only, please. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Charlie Anthony Ward KG. His remains are reposing at his home. Removal this evening at 6:30 to St Mary's Church, Kincashla for 7 o'clock, where he will repose overnight. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Belcritch Cemetery. The death has occurred of Mary Joyce, Main Street, Dunlow. Her remains are reposing at McGuiness Funeral Home today from 2 until 9 o'clock. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. House private, please. Funeral Mass tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock in St Cronus Church, Dunlow, with interment afterwards in Mahary Cemetery. And the death has occurred of James Jim Francis, 20 Solomon's Manor, Letterkenny, formerly Belfast. Requiem Mass this morning in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in the family plot in Conwell Cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations if wished to St Eunan's Nursing Home Residents Comfort Fund, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Coming up very shortly, Seamus Gunn will be joining us to answer your legal questions. If you have one, get it into us now. I'll do my very best to get an answer for you, get some advice for you. Also, a little later on, Tanaiste Leo Varadkar scheduled to come on the programme. We'll also be hearing from Micheal Leddy and Conor Malone as will be joining us as a stand-in for Fionnuala, who is back next Friday in her usual position. So that's all coming up on the programme today. Politicians should not be working 24 hours a day on a miserable wage. As a member of the Permanent Defence Forces, she has not got a clue what it's like to be a member. Another caller says, when we talk about defence, our biggest threat is cybersecurity. It could cripple our country. We saw what one attack on the HSE, the impacts that had. Greg, in relation to Joe McHugh stepping down, I greatly respect his decision to put his family first. Family comes first before anything else, they say. What about the new bridge in Letterkenny? Cllr McGarvey promised to make it his priority if elected. Another caller, Greg, why do we need more TDs than we have? There are currently 650 constituencies, each sending one MP to the House of Commons, corresponding to approximately one for every 92,000 people, or one for every 68,000 parliamentary electors, more than a greater ratio than here. Hi, Greg. Just want to say a massive thanks to yourself and Caroline for your time on the show on Tuesday and letting us get the fundraiser out there. 65 holes for 5 roses. We've had loads of donations since the show. Highland is such a brilliant platform and we are big fans of the show. Still praying the weather holds up tomorrow. That comes in from Vinny and Mark. And Vinny is doing 65 holes. He's going to be joined by a number of people along the way at Letterkenny Golf Course, I think. It's going to be damp early on, but the weather is going to pick up a little later on. Fantastic, by the way, in terms of that campaign. I haven't seen better in terms of the use of social media. Very, very impressive. how they've conducted that campaign in terms of, in the first instance, raising awareness, and then secondly, of course, raising funds. Hi, Greg. It's a joke that you can only tax your car now in the tax office on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Only in Ireland, Greg. Thanks. And I think the closing time it's quite early in the day as well. I don't understand why that is. Hi, listening to you talking about the price of oil. I have the oil on all the time from March to October to March. The 1,000 litres lasts 3 months. I have it in 25 years. Very happy with it. Comes in Fanula. So Fanula, you'd be talking at the current prices, you'd be talking at €400 a month in home heating oil. Really, really quite that's really quite significant. If you've had your burner though for 25 years, you might want to look at that, because the new ones, I think it can cost about €600 to change out the burner itself. I think the new ones are more economical than the older ones. You might even squeak a month out of it, but sure, an extra month. But if it's been well serviced, maybe. I don't know. I'm not an oil expert technician, but a new burner is going to be more efficient than the old burner. Greg, can you... Oh, sorry, that's a question for Seamus Gunn. You know what? Let's get Seamus on the programme. Here are the bingo numbers. Back after these and a quick break. Seamus Gunn joining us very shortly.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 6th of May. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S10. It's game number 18. The numbers are 75, 65, 24, 80, 25, 73, 71, 45, 67, and finally 64. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Farmers to be paid €100 per hectare for silage and hay. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We have all the details of the new silage scheme targeting beef and sheep farmers. Major Teagasc U-turn and suckler beef advice. The beef trade is booming. We reveal the reasons why and will it last, and find out how you could save thousands by switching mortgage provider.
Plus, don't miss our baled silage special, only inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
Since she got her free hearing aids with her PRSI at Specsavers, Roisin is a changed woman. Music has never sounded better, and that makes her dance. And dance. And dance. Her singing, though, well...
Free hearing aids with PRSI at Specsavers. Music to your ears. Find out more online. Terms and conditions apply.
Ellen, write what you want to be when you grow up on the blackboard.
Ellen, remember to sign up for the swim team.
Ellen, all competitors must register today.
Ellen Keane has written the name into the history books by winning gold for Ireland!
Nothing is written until you write it.
Ellen, can I have your autograph?
You write it, we underwrite it. Allianz, proudly supporting Paralympics Ireland since 2010.
Breaking gardening news. Our correspondent Petunia at Alcorn's Garden Centre.
I am surrounded by an array of spectacular summer bedding. These beauties are moving fast, with last year's prices held. Wow! I'm amazed by the choice of shrubs, trees, roses and perennials. Ah, Rosemary has just selected a super specimen plant and trendy ceramic pot. Oh, Craig is advising on the many baskets. Buy from Alcorns, where value happens every day.
Okay, welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Good morning, Seamus Gunn. How are you?
Morning, Greg. Nice to be here, yeah.
Great to see you. Great to hear you. Yeah, for sure. It'd be great to have you back up. Give you a break from the office, as resplendent as it looks behind you, but...
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I'll be a bit of a break, yeah, get out and about, yeah, why not?
Right, people texting in their questions, we'll get to them shortly. 08660 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text for your questions to Seamus Gunn. But I suppose the trial of the year so far is taking place in the United States. I'm not going to lie, it's not something I've taken a keen interest. It's Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. And really, you know, the warts and all, everything in the closets and cupboards is all being laid out to bear. Tell us the background to this trial, Seamus.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating. Like, there's nothing like a showbiz trial in the US to get people's interest, and it is being watched. And of course, it's mega bucks. But parking that aside, I mean, there's so much at stake for the likes of Johnny Depp, like, who's world renowned, and we all go back to and enjoyed, I have to say, the Pirates back in the 80s, and all children really enjoy that show. I think there was another one in the pipeline. So his career is being, you could say, there's a bet on his entire future with this case as to whether he will have a future. And so the stakes are extremely high. And this lady is not for going away. But what is remarkable, though, is this. 2 years ago, you might remember, the same case came up in England. And he took on the Sun for an article in which, again, alleged libel, and he lost. Now, rather than learn a lesson from that, where are we now? We're going on with a show trial in Fairfax County in the US, and it's more of the same. It's quite horrific, the detail that's coming out now, and the allegations being made against him. She put an article in the Washington Post in around the end of 2018, and actually he wasn't named personally, but they're saying, or they're claiming to the jurors, that it was clear that Amber Heard was referencing him. At that stage, the divorce had already been finalised, and they had only, Greg, it's worth noting, been married for some 2 years. But at that stage, it had been finalised since 2017. Now, yesterday, she's recounting incidents on planes and, violence and really bizarre behaviour in the extreme on his part. It's going to come down to credibility. Why it has got to this, it beggars belief. That I would have thought that this was one of those type of cases that he has a lot more to lose. She's been sued for $50 million, and there's a counterclaim against him now for $100 million. So where it's going to play out, a jury's going to decide. A jury's going to decide on his career. Is that sensible for what he has
Seamus,
to look forward to? I doubt very much.
I mean, you often advocate for parties coming to some sort of an agreement before it gets to court. Neither, I don't think, are short of cash. She's a successful actor in her own right. I mean, but what's clear from the evidence, mud sticks, regardless of the outcome from the jury, the reputational damage is done now. As you say, he does have a film coming out. Maybe these actors have a way of rehabilitating themselves in the public eye, but be that as it may, even they might just find in one or other's favour and award $1 in damages or something. Who's to say? The reputations are shot anyway, at least for the short to medium term of both people.
Yeah, well, and she has more time maybe on her side, and I think the public might be more sympathetic to her. I think there's over a 20-year age gap here or thereabouts. Johnny Depp, we won't say he's in the twilight, but he's definitely in his late 50s or thereabouts. Like he was typecast to some degree with the Pirates with that particular film. But I mean, he did, there was talk about him having a massive show coming out, Fantastic Beasts, I think it was called, which was a Harry Potter spin-off as well, with another Pirates of Penzance film. So if that doesn't happen, where is he then? This type of action, to me, looked like one, especially with a claim and counterclaim, that could have been resolved at an earlier stage and not got into the public arena, where he is going to be the big loser, and the stakes are too high for him. And I just, if being advised after London, I cannot see how you should go and repeat it again. Interesting this time, Greg, maybe finally on this, the Sun, while the Sun was sued on the last occasion, the Washington Post, who printed the article in 2018, is not a party to this case at all. It's just himself and herself going at it, and it doesn't make for pleasant reading.
And very finally, he would have chosen
he's going to become out the worst.
He would have chosen the state for legal reasons where this case might be heard. It's quite random.
Well, the reason it's in Fairfax County is that the Washington Post is published in Fairfax County. It's next door, I think, to Washington. And the jury, yeah, maybe they think there might be some more sympathy for him there. But I think jurors in the US historically are very unpredictable. And just from the way it's playing out in the media at the minute. I think that the Amber Heard side of it has some credibility. It has been tested already, and it could stand up again. And if it does stand up again, well, Mr. Depp could be in serious difficulties going forward.
All right, lots of questions coming in today, Seamus. It's always busy, but particularly busy. A caller wants your views, if it's okay, on the leak from the American courts on the Roe versus Wade case. I mean, obviously, I don't think we have time to sort of get into the ins and outs of it. It's not unprecedented, as we learned recently, but it's certainly, we haven't seen a leak of this nature in quite some time, and the ramifications and the ripples from this are huge. And I don't think they're just huge in America, I think if there is a big change in policy in half the states in the United States, that puts a fire under, pro-life movements right across the world, including in this country.
The first question I think you have to ask is, in relation to Roe v. Wade and the leak, is are they testing the waters? Are they finding out what the reaction is going to be if this is the way this judgment goes? Keep that in mind. They have until, I believe, late maybe June to make definitive decisions. So this is a draft, but it hasn't been denied that is the content. So the draft at the moment is accurate. Now they're getting the public feedback. Now they shouldn't be crossing the line between the politics and the legislature and the judiciary. That's sanctimonious, but that I believe there's a little bit of that going on here. Could be wrong, but I think so. So that could all change. But the interesting thing about the Roe v. Wade decision in 73, is that it took away from the states, the United States, the power to make laws to prohibit abortion. If it's turned over in simple terms, that's given back to the states themselves. So the states individually, they make the decisions then whether to outlaw abortion, whether to allow it in certain circumstances, restricted or otherwise. So that's what's fascinating about this, and that's why there is so much at play, and that's why they were outside the Supreme Court when this was leaked. I think it was Monday evening, and that night they were already there. Yeah. So they were in masses, both sides. So it shows you what is really at play here. And the other thing about the Roe v. Wade thinking, or what I thought it was fascinating, is that came down on the right of privacy of women to make decisions with regard to whether they'll terminate, and that was a constitutional right enshrined in the Constitution that had to be upheld. Now, I don't know, that is watery enough to me, and I think that they have an issue about that. But the bottom line here, and this is the one that I think should be more focused on, is the ramifications, the consequences. If you give them back the power, you give Texas back the power to decide on abortion, there's going to be no abortion.
Well, they say it's 50-50 across the states, in terms of how that might be implemented if this as it's leaked is followed through.
I think, I haven't got the percentages. I would have thought that it is more the majority for. I would have thought 30-20. That'd be amongst the public individuals, it's 60-40 for further restrictions to be in place. But in terms of the actual states, I read somewhere that individually the states it's quite divided. But anyway, divided, yeah. And there could be 20 though. There could be up to 20 states that would completely outlaw it.
Understood.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about fringe states with restrictions and in certain circumstances that you will
12
be
weeks limits and
there could be 20
that'd
be a slam dunk. Just no. And if that power is given back, there'll be a lot more. It's something that we will be probably revisiting at some time in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see after June what they do. They might water it down a bit, and that's my prediction.
All right, okay. We'll be back with your questions to Seamus after these messages.
Fancy some me time in a McCafe before you start the day? Fancy sharing the gossip and some fries over lunch? Or a catch-up over a cheeseburger? Fancy chilling out with a chocolate milkshake? So worth the brain freeze. Fancy a cheeky diversion on the way home? Or a McFlurry before the bus arrives? Fancy a Big Mac and a box set and not doing the washing up? Fancy pretending it's a weekend on a weekday? Or a bit of family time, because it's always a good time for some McNuggets. Fancy a McDonald's? Serving times apply.
iMotors Nissan, the place for award-winning range of vehicles including the Micra, Leaf, Duke, Qashqai and the all-new Nissan Ariya. There's a model to suit everyone. Call today or visit our website at imotors.ie for more details, or call 074 913 4567 to arrange a test drive.
For all your health and beauty needs, you can always rely on McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. If you need a prescription, just call or order online at mcgees.ie and it will be ready for you in advance before you arrive. For beauty and skin care, there's all the big names at great prices in store and online. And for your photo printing needs, simply download the McGee's Photo Prints app or click on the website link. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, for all your health and beauty needs, and so much more. Call 91211409 or visit mcgees.ie.
Breaking gardening news. Our correspondent Petunia at Alcorn's Garden Centre.
I am surrounded by an array of spectacular summer bedding. These beauties are moving fast, with last year's prices held. Wow! I'm amazed by the choice of shrubs, trees, roses and perennials. Ah, Rosemary has just selected a super specimen plant and trendy ceramic pot. Oh, Craig is advising on the many baskets. Buy from Alcorns, where value happens every day.
At M&S Food, you'll find loads of quality products, all at a new lower price. Like our traceable lean Irish mince beef, just €4, perfect for a cottage pie. Rich tea biscuits, just 30 cents, perfect with a cup of tea. And 4 crisp juicy Braeburn apples, just €1.50. And the best bit? There's absolutely no compromise on quality or taste. Look out for our new lower prices. Just one of the ways to save with M&S Food. Subject to availability, new lower price since March 31st. See in store for details.
And you are very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Seamus Gunn is still with us, and now we're going to get to some of the questions you've been sending us in. A tricky one this, Seamus, for the listener, perhaps not in terms of your advice. My partner passed away 6 months ago. We'd split the cost of a car together. Now, another member of his family, who is a beneficiary, has taken the vehicle from this person's house. Who should I be contacting in relation to this, because I don't know where I stand? So they have a 50% stake in this car, but a beneficiary of the deceased has already taken it.
Yeah, what they haven't clarified is as a partner or the cohabitants, but let's assume for the purpose of the question that they were partners in the car and had obviously a relationship and it was long-term. It is tricky. And it's very sensitive, and I'm emphasising that because these things can be got so wrong at the start, and it sets the tone going forward. And there's a lot of grief and emotion involved with the loss of a loved one, and there's no doubt about that. But for that reason, you have to sometimes take a slight step back. The parties though that are involved, and the caller wants to know who to the contact. Well, they have obviously an interest in the car. It was 50-50. The partner may have wanted them to have it. The first question you have to find out is there any arrangements made? So you're going to have to be looking to their family if this individual doesn't know. Now, it would be unusual if they were living together that they didn't know that the individual had some arrangements made at all. But it can and does happen. So if they're not aware of that, I would suggest that they have to make some contact with the next of kin. The party that would be responsible is, if there is a will, would be the executor of the estate. So that's where you set your inquiry towards. And to find that out, you're probably going to have to engage with his or her family and see the situation and outline the position in relation to the purchase of the car. It may be there's no issue at all. It may be just a slight misunderstanding in relation to it. And when the background and the facts are outlined, it can be simply resolved and amicably resolved, and far better that way, I have to say. But make the inquiry and take it from there. If there is an estate, it will be the executor.
A caller says a daughter and her 7-year-old daughter got a bus to Dublin. The bus broke down on the way to Dublin and the way back, taking 7 hours to get down to Dublin. She complained to the bus company wanting a refund, but they refused. Where does she stand? I mean, it's an act of God, is it?
There are delays in relation to flights and air traffic. Yes, there might be some redress for food and accommodation, etc. But this is not one of those situations If buses are to be penalised because one breaks down or because the schedule is running behind, they're difficult enough making a living as it is. They'll certainly be out of business if that's the case. So yes, certainly can make a case, maybe on a PR, if you want me to advise on that, for the purpose of the bus company, to give them a complimentary ticket. Yes, that's something you might look at, might be worthwhile, and might foster good relations going forward. But if you're asking me, technically speaking, are the bus company obligated to reimburse? They fulfill their contract, by the way. You pay for the ticket. You're taken from A to B. Part and parcel of that is, yes, they give you these times that they are to arrive at, depart at and arrive at, and circumstances can change those. And my view of it is that if they wanted to take this into litigation, it certainly would be throwing good money after bad.
Can you ask Seamus if I'm entitled to money back from my insurance company? I was in an accident 8 years ago, and it was recently proven that I was not at fault. My insurance premiums were so expensive after the accident.
It's an interesting question, and it's one that I wouldn't say that there would be no hope in pursuing, having, as they describe it, in that 8 years later, that if it's the case that they're totally exonerated, well, then no liability should have been attributed to them. The difficulty with it is this, that if the insurance company has defended that case up to that point, they will have incurred significant costs and expenses themselves on foot of it, and that'll be under the terms of their policy. But that should be built into the third party cover. If their no claims bonus was suspended during this period, which I suspect they're hinting at, it's that differential between that and the full reinstatement of it, and for that period that they're talking about the loss. And I think that they have certainly a case to put forward that they should be entitled to reimbursement of that if there was no fault with them, because it would have been suspended as soon as the claim goes in. So now is the time to look at it. Go to the insurance ombudsman if not getting anywhere. It's not without hope. The insurance company may claim, but they've had significant costs in defending it, and that's where the issue might have to be trashed out.
Yeah,
but I think that there is some bona fides in it.
And the involvement of the ombudsman would prick the ears of the insurance company as well if they were to take on the case, especially if it's one they can.
Without a doubt, you see, like again, you're talking about big corporations, against the small David and Goliath situation. So if somebody stands up to them, outlines the facts that 8 years ago, yes, there was a claim, yes, but they have been cleared of that, and in the meantime they've been penalised. I think that's very, very stateable and reasonable to say, well, I should be reimbursed.
All right, a walking right of way where someone has put a gate and a lock on it. What is the best way to go around dealing with this issue? It's a complicated one, and there's an awful lot of these little cases all around the place.
Rural Ireland, and for people out walking through lands, etc. And it arises all the time and gives. Obviously, it can cause a lot of difficulty, can cause litigation, can cause circuit court applications and title actions in it. And in these type of cases and the circumstances, the first point is to get all the facts as to the use of it and the history regarding it, and who owns the actual ground itself and who has the access or the easement over it. And then when you're armed with that, you can make decisions. There's not in law in relation to the ownership, one can have a gate, but if there's people using it, if they have access through it and they're not prevented, so be it. Once they have established an easement, the big point that arises in this is what rights are established, and in order to deal with that particular case, you would have to have the entire background and the history and the use in relation to it.
But in terms of a right of way, right? You can establish a right of way, but are there not competing rights of the landowner as well? Like a right of way, if it's through someone's property, they could face themselves liable for a trip or a fall, or if an animal were to attack a walker or what have you. Like a right of way doesn't give someone, does it, an absolute right of way? Surely there's competing rights.
No, absolutely not. There's what's called the dominant and servient tenements, if you want to get into the technicalities.
Right, let's open up that law book.
Into the technicalities of it. and the dominant and servant tenements as to, the owner has the ultimate say with regard to the property and are in control of it. And in relation to insurance, etc., that is the situation. So you can understand that any other rights they're not competing with them. They're what's called an easement. Okay. And an easement is a right to pass and repass over an area of ground to facilitate an individual getting somewhere else, getting to B from A and through C. So that is where the dominant and servient tenements come into it. But you're quite correct in that the landowner is entitled to protect their property and is entitled to manage the access to it or through it, and anybody else would be servient to that.
Mm-hmm. All right, time for a couple of quickies, if that's all right. This might be employment law or indeed a job for HR, but my employer is not giving me a pay slip every week when I get paid. He keeps putting it off when I ask. I'm a full-time employee. What might be going on here? What are my rights to access an actual pay slip?
We can't say what's going on. I would say any individual employee is entitled to a pay slip if they've requested it. It should be furnished. These type of situations, you don't really want them to degenerate and sour the relationship between the employer and the employee. HR would always tell you that. It should be easily resolved. If they deteriorate, you're talking about the Work Relations Commission and Lodging. If you go on their website, it's self-explanatory, all the different reliefs and all the different types of complaints that can be made and addressed to them. And then they would have probably raised the matter with the employer, but it's simply this: the employee, if they have requested their pay slip, they would be entitled to it.
All right, Greg and Seamus, my dad has a bit of property. He has made a will, but we're wondering, would it be best and less expensive in the long run if he actually signed it over to us before he passed away? We're thinking on tax and probate.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I think you'd want to ask the dad that, because this is the beneficiary that's asking the question, or let's say the assumed beneficiary that's asking the question. So it could certainly be in their interest that this matter be addressed now, but the person who owns the property would then be minus the property for the rest of their life and might want to make a different decision about it if circumstances change. For example, if everyone's living longer nowadays, had to go into care and had to provide for themselves, well, it might be handy to have a bit of property they might want to sell or whatever at that point in their lives. So if they've made their arrangements, it's taken care of, and ultimately it would go through probate. Yes, there'll be certain fees involved in that if they want to go ahead with a transfer now, and there's no issue with that. But it has to be both. It has to be the transferor, the person who owns it, who makes that decision and gives the instruction, not the person who's hoping to receive it.
Because of course it doesn't cost the person who is alive anything in terms of time, legal bills or probate. That's the receiver that puts them costs.
And also, Greg, interesting, if you go ahead with the transfer now, it'll be the transferee who would have to pay the stamp duty now and the legal fees on that at this stage. And now there's a legal requirement since around, it must be 9 or 10 years now for two firms of solicitors to be involved as well. But so if the person has decided to divest themselves of an asset at this stage in their life, they'd best be independently advised on it first of all, and then make a decision and make an informed decision on that. And there's no difficulty with it. But remember, it should be their decision.
Okay. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin, Gunn and Company, Letterkenny and Ramelton, thank you as always for your time. That's the physical offices, of course. You're ever present online?
Ever present, thankfully, Greg, Donegal-solicitors.ie or gun.ie. Keep it simple.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Seamus. 08660 25,000. That is the WhatsApp number. That is the text number. Or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. It is time for us to take a commercial break. We will be right back. Stay right where you are.
Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure has everything you need for getting fit in 2022. From training gear to resistance bands, skipping ropes, weights and foam rollers, we have all the essentials to see you through every step of your fitness journey from training to recovery. Shop our range of gym wear, equipment and accessories at michaelmurphysports.ie.
The Micheal English Celebration Tour comes to the Millennium Forum Derry on Wednesday, May the 11th, and the Cllr Arts Centre Omagh on Friday, May 20th. Come and join Micheal and his super band for a spectacular musical extravaganza, a brand new tour of his best yet. Celebrate once again with a night of non-stop sing-along favourites. It's a show you simply won't want to miss. For more on the Derry show, see millenniumforum.co.uk, and for more on the Omagh show, see strulartcentre.co.uk. For details of all Michael's shows, see michaelenglish.ie.
Fly with Loganair from City of Derry to Edinburgh and immerse yourself in the live shows and street food of the Fringe Festival this summer, with discounts for children aged 11 and under.
Fly with me, I want to take you there, precious moments of this journey, to where homeward bound again.
Book now at loganair.co.uk. 15 kilo luggage allowance as standard.
Aldi, home of amazing grocery 6 offers now with up to 50% off. Mamiya baby wipes 64 pack was 95 cent, now 79 cent. Mamiya nappy size 3 56 pack was 2.99, now 2.49. Honey glazed roast parsnips was 1.29, now 79 cent. Pate selection was 1.39, now 79 cent. Hot curry sauces was 1.69, now 79 cent. And Okie Dokies cheese and onion crisps 12 pack was 2.79, now 2.49. Sounds okie dokie to me. Aldi, every day amazing.
Sunday, April 3rd was Census Night, and our enumerators have now finished collecting census forms. Every form must be returned, so if your form hasn't been collected, please free post it now to the address on the front of your form. Visit census.ie to find out more. Be counted.
Donegal County Council invite you to a public drop-in event in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel on Monday the 23rd of May from 3 till 8 p.m. to commence a number of plans being prepared, a variation to the current County Development Plan, the Repowering Buncrana Regeneration Project and preliminary design for Buncrana Leisure Centre. With formal presentations at 7 from Donegal County Council and the Cahirlock of Donegal County Council, Councillor Jack Murray. For more information, visit donegaldevplan.ie, that's donegaldevplan.ie and donegalcoco.ie.
When it feels like money's tight, it's good to know that there's an Aldi price match at Tesco with hundreds of your favourite products every week. From bananas to Barry's tea. So you can be sure you'll find the products that matter most to you. Because right now, every little helps. Shopping took place on the 7th of April. Price checked and matched and comparable products from select Aldi ROI stores and or online weekly. Price most often found is matched pro rata and excluding promotions. Products matched may vary by week. Product availability varies by store. For verification, see tesco.ie/groceries.
Country Sundays continue at the Cllr Hotel this weekend, featuring Robert Mazzell and his band. Tickets €15, doors 7:15, dancing 8 till 10, followed by music in McGettigan's Bar. Country Sunday hot offer includes your ticket, bed and breakfast for only €70 per person sharing. Country Sundays at the Cllr Hotel with Robert Mazzell this Sunday.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. This summer is going to be one of the busiest ever. Check out our summer flights to European cities such as Barcelona, Cologne and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
Okay, so the weather forecast continuing damp for the rest of this morning, brightening up though through the afternoon. Temperatures around 14 or 15 degrees, 14 to 16 degrees in fact. Okay, we welcome into the studio now Tanaiste and leader of the Fine Gael party, Leo Varadkar. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you here.
Good morning, David. Great to be here.
Right, of course, there was big news for Fine Gael locally. We had Joe McHugh saying that he's not going to seek election at the next election, and of course you're up here Friday. Happy coincidence of timing, or did you move things around so that the announcement came in the same week that you're going to be up speaking to party members?
No, it was there was some coordination around it. So Joe called me a few weeks ago to let me know of his plans, and we had a discussion involving me and our party general secretary as to what the best way to handle it was, and kind of felt it'd be strange if I came here, spent the day in Donegal, which I was going to do anyway, and then suddenly announced it a week or two after. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to make the announcement and then talk to the members tonight about plans for the future. But the most important thing I suppose I'd like to get across today really is just to pay tribute to Joe. Joe and I were elected to the Dáil in the same election back in 2007, both regained seats for the party in areas where we didn't have a seat at the time. Served on the front bench together. I had the honour of appointing him as Chief Whip and Minister for Education. And now
the highlight of his political career, he said, getting that call from you on a Friday night.
Yeah, well, I remember too. Like he remembers it obviously from his side. I remember I was sitting outside an apartment building in Ranelagh trying to get him from the car, and
I think he was watching the Late Late or something.
Yeah. And you know, we had 3 years in government together around that cabinet table, dealing with really big issues, Brexit, which is such an important issue here in Donegal. Very much the Micah issues kicked off during that period as well, which Joe's been a very strong advocate for, and then also, you know, issues around growing the economy and reforming education. And Joe's given Donegal enormous service, given Fine Gael enormous service, and really sorry to see him go. We do have a change of mind form available. People do sometimes change their mind, but I think what he's done in many ways is helpful to the party, because in run up to the last election we had a number of TDs who decided they were retiring, didn't give us much notice, and we had to scramble to find a candidate at the last moment. Now we've 2 years, 2 years to do succession planning, and you know, we've a number of very strong councillors, and then perhaps people, maybe from outside the traditional family who may be interested in running.
And with no disrespect to the councillors you mentioned, loyal servants, of course, and I've in terms of Councillor Martin Harley, they've been there for you in the past to run alongside Joe. But you would know we've got a very low female representation on Donegal County Council. We have, of course, no female TD for quite some time in Donegal. Would it be your preference that the party would look at that in Donegal to try and perhaps look towards a female candidate, for example?
Well, ultimately it's the members here in Donegal who'll decide.
But you're the leader.
And I should just, you mentioned Martin Hardy there. Martin added quite late to the ticket last time, did very well actually, given the limited amount of time that he had to run that campaign. The party is going to run 40% of our candidates in the next election at least will be women. So, the logical thing we will try to do in each constituency is to run one man and one woman. That won't always be the case, but that's what we'll try to do in most constituencies, and that's the objective we'll be working towards. And, Fine Gael is a party that has a good record on female participation in politics. I'm one, of the Fine Gael ministers around the table, excluding me, it's 3 men and 3 women. We have 65 female councillors, more than any other party.
But that's why I'm highlighting Donegal, because there's arguably a particular issue here. Not just actually with Fine Gael, of course. Other parties had opportunities, perhaps with co-option, where they could have looked at, diversifying the council somewhat. They didn't. So I'm not hanging this all on Fine Gael, but I'm just saying there does seem to be a particular. At the end of the day, too, the electorate ultimately decide, but it's about giving them choice.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And the electorate can't vote for female candidates unless they have female candidates. And, one thing that's going to be an issue, of course, in Donegal is where the boundaries lie. Is it going to be a 5-seater again? Could it be 2 3-seaters? Who knows? And we won't know that really until Christmas or early in the new year. So we can't really make firm decisions until then. But certainly the intention in pretty much every constituency would be to have a gender balanced ticket, and that would be a man and a woman. It is harder in more rural constituencies and constituencies that are further away from Dublin, and that is the nature of politics. It is a 24/7 business. That isn't going to change. Residents are still going to have meetings at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the same at council level. I mean, I'm no one broadening out the conversation, but I mean, if we are hoping to encourage people to come into politics from different backgrounds with different responsibilities, we have to change the system, don't we? I mean, the way the councils run at the moment, meetings that run for 10 hours, then people have to fulfil obligations in the evening, and then clinics, and the same as you said, particularly, I suppose, for rural TDs as you've outlined. I mean, are we going to make any inroads into looking at that to make it a more realistic proposition for a broader section of society, do you think?
Well, yes, and I think being family friendly isn't just important for women; it's important for men as well. And the kind of things we have changed, for example, is the Dáil's hours now are much more family friendly in terms of when votes happen. Councils can do that too, and they should. And for example. For a lot more things can be done remotely, so people can do things from home that they couldn't do before. But you can't entirely change the world. I still think resident associations are going to have their meetings at night. I still think public meetings are going to happen at weekends. I still think the media is going to have shows in the evening, for example. I don't see the media cancelling prime time or the late debate or any of those things. So there are changes that we can make, but there are also, bigger societal things that are harder to change. And actually, things like the media, for example, and politicians have to do a lot of media. that's more 24/7 than ever was, and I don't see the media changing that in the interest of equality.
Yeah, okay. Now, obviously, you're here to address or attend the Fine Gael AGM, and also you're going to visit the County Museum, and you've got other things to do. You mentioned the biggest issue here at the moment is MICA. Are you going to use this opportunity to meet with any of those directly affected by this crisis during your visit, considering it is, without argument, I don't think, the biggest single issue facing the people of Donegal and, as we know now, beyond?
Well, I should say that the first thing I did this morning was to visit TCS, Tata Consultancy Services here in Letterkenny. I'm the Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. Yeah. It's my job to increase the number of job opportunities in all parts of the country. Things are going really well there. They have 170 jobs open for people who may wish to apply for them. We've had 2 IDA investment announcements in the last couple of months. We're working on another one in the next couple of months. And it's good to see so many.
Is that Letterkenny based again?
Commercially confidential, so I can't say. But as you know, we've 3 IDA sites in Letterkenny. We've one in Donegal and one in Ballyshannon as well. So we're interested in getting investment into all of them. But it is great to see so many more job opportunities available in Donegal than was the case in the past. And I'm working on that to make that better. And also remote working is really helping as well in terms of people's choices. And one thing I'm anxiously waiting to see is the census results, because as you know, in 2016, Donegal was one of only 2 counties where the population actually went down. I think we're going to see a big turnaround in that. And we have seen a lot of economic progress in the county, and that didn't happen by accident. It happened because of the hard work of people here on the ground, the business community, but also the government making some of the right decisions in the last couple of years as well.
Are you going to be meeting with any of those directly affected by the MICA crisis?
I am, yes. I'm meeting the action group at 11:30 today. I remember many years ago, Joe McHugh bringing me to a house in Bundoran. It was Anya Daly's house, and I think I was the first.
Was it Buncrana? Sorry,
it was Trillick. Is that right?
Okay, I think right.
near Buncrana. I think it was Trillick. Yeah. But I don't.
No,
remember,
that's fine. You said Bundoran. But that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
Trillick near Buncrana. Sorry. Yeah. So I don't remember exactly where it was.
No,
that's
fine.
I'll never forget the visit because really seeing a house crumbling is quite an experience. And I'd seen the problems with pyrite in my own constituency, but hadn't seen the scale or devastation of Mike until then. The scheme is too long coming. I acknowledge that entirely. Lots of reasons for that. But we're speaking to the minister there only the other day. It's still his intention, and I think this will be delivered. Is that we'll have the legislation.
Is IS 465 going to be
before the summer?
Oh, you're confident it'll be passed before the summer?
Before the summer recess, yeah.
Okay, and do you think the IS 465 will be looked at to include pyrite materials as well? Obviously, people are seeing that really as the problem. That Mike is one of the problems. The true problem is this mineral that is having a broader impact, and not just in Donegal now, as you'd be more than aware. It's spreading right across the country, the west coast anyway.
The pyrite, yeah.
Yeah, pyrite.
So that is currently under examination at the moment. But the fundamental principle is defective buildings and defective blocks, and while it is going to cost a lot of money, it's going to cost billions of euros, and it's going to affect many more parts of the country than Donegal. The fundamental principle here is that the government society can't allow people's homes to crumble around them, can't allow people to become homeless as a result, and that's why we're going to intervene. And it shouldn't be about which county you're in or which mineral is the cause of the defect. The fundamental principle is that where insurance companies won't, the government will intervene to ensure that people's homes can be repaired or rebuilt.
When do you think that might start happening in a meaningful way? Obviously, there's 400 or 500 applications at the moment stalled as the scheme is being reviewed. 5 or 6 houses have been completed, I think, since the 90-10 scheme. When do you think we'll start seeing houses being repaired in large numbers, where we can have workers and materials to actually do that, of course? But when would you hope to see that happening?
So the timeline that we're working on is to have the legislation enacted before the summer recess. So you're talking there June, July, to have the scheme up and running later this year. And then you'd expect, I suppose, next year to see a significant building works underway, notwithstanding all the problems that arise around labour and materials and all the rest of it. But I do think this will be going on for a long time. This will be going on for many, many years. And it is important, I suppose, that we start with those homes most in need and those that are dangerous, quite frankly, at the moment, and that they're the ones that get done first.
And you'd be confident that this will be 100% redress, that those who have their houses restored won't be out of pocket?
100% or something very close to it, certainly.
Okay. How close, though?
Like, I'm not going to put a figure on it, but
well, we did before. We had 90-10 before, so
well, it's not 90-10. Like,
it's not 100 either. Then,
like, you know, what I don't want to say is that nobody will ever have to contribute €1 at all to anything like that. You know, because that may not be the case, but certainly 100% is what the government has committed to. But you know, I don't want to say 100% and then someone turn around and say they have to, you know, pay a certain amount of money out of their pocket for one reason or another, particularly if it involves something outside the scheme.
Yeah, understood. Just broadly speaking, nationally, I suppose it's international. Do you get a sense, though, or do you have any indication? Are we heading towards a recession? Speaking to a lot of people, there is that sense. The only thing, a lot of stuff feels the same, except maybe not the large amount of personal borrowing, but an awful lot feels the same as 2006, 2007, 2008. Is that the direction of traffic? Is that where we're heading, do you think, in the next year or two?
Well, I think what happened in that period, the Great Recession back in 2008, 2009, was two things. There was the global financial crisis, which obviously affected Ireland, the collapse of Lehman Brothers and all of that. And there was also then this housing credit bubble, a huge amount of reckless lending, reckless borrowing, which was very much an Irish problem. It wasn't as acute in other countries. So we don't have that this time. You know, we have an economy that is growing. Jobs being created every day. I think we're going to reach record levels of employment. 2.5 million people at work by the end of the year. That's kind of my number one target to achieve, if you like, full employment and jobs for everyone in all parts of the country. The public finances are in a very good state, actually. So the domestic picture, I think, is actually strong and reassuring, and everyone was predicting ongoing economic growth this year. The big concern is those international factors, and you know, we are only a small country, and we're only 5 million people in a world of 8,000 million people, and that would be the worry. You know, if Britain went into recession, if the US went into recession, or if Europe did, those things could impact us. I think we will avoid it, but you can't be complacent about these things either. You know, I remember, I haven't always been in government, and when I was in opposition, I remember hearing politicians trotting out that line, the fundamentals of our economy are sound. And, any time I hear someone say that, I get worried. So, you know, we're monitoring the situation very closely as to what's happening in the rest of the world. Obviously, the big fear is around rising costs and energy prices. Something largely beyond our control.
Just in relation to that, I mean, people struggle, I struggle, to square the circle of oil companies reporting record profits, and yet we're supposed to be in a fuel crisis, and we are, €1,200 for 1,000 litres of oil. A lot of houses might burn that in 3 months. You know, maybe we could look to diverse away from that, but putting that to one side for a moment. Is there anything as a government we can be doing, a windfall tax or whatever it might be, so that those ridiculous profits, their obscene profits that these oil companies are making in this crisis, can lighten the load on our population in terms of the cost of energy?
Yeah, well, you know, companies operate off margins, so, you know, if prices double and their margin is 3%, that their profit in cash terms increases. I think we can do windfall taxes on companies that have disproportionately benefited from.
Are we actively looking at that?
Well, the difficulty is they're generally not Irish companies, like British BP, Shell, you know, whatever. These are not, you know, these oil and gas companies are not Irish companies, and they're not taxed here. The only place where that might arise is around some of the energy companies. You know, so say for example, if ESB made a mega profit.
So we have internally we have no mechanism to leverage in the way asked.
We do. Like for example, from state companies like ESB and Bord Gáis, we can take a bigger dividend. We already take a big dividend off them, and that goes into the pot to pay for health and education and everything else. And then with some of the other energy companies that are privately owned, we could do a windfall tax if they report windfall profits, which they haven't yet. But it's on a relatively small scale.
Yeah,
it's not like BP or
no, we're not going to have
Aramco
BP
or
over
Gazprom
an oil
or-
barrel,
Yeah,
so to speak.
We don't have,
I understand that.
We don't tax them.
I just wanted to put that out there because the texts come in all the time, and I just wanted to make it clear what influence we could have as a country in that regard. So I appreciate you addressing that.
We're certainly not ruling out a windfall tax, and we could use some of that money to help people with fuel poverty, for example. But it's not that those oil and gas companies are headquartered and taxed in Ireland. They're not. We don't have any oil and we don't have much gas, unfortunately.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the big stories at the moment is the turf and the banning of turf, and it's how we're treated as the public in terms of how these conversations happen. Eamon Ryan says something, then you say something else. I'm not sure at that time if it had even been discussed amongst government partners. We got the leaks out of cabinet meetings. We got the leaks out of parliamentary party meetings. We're reading and learning stuff out of the newspapers. Can you not do anything about that, whereby the public are treated with some respect and maybe were the first to hear about some policies or were the first to hear about major changes to our lives? I mean, we're not talking about thousands of people here, but people feel very disrespected and behind newspapers in terms of importance.
Yeah, look at this whole thing could have been handled a lot better, and I think I certainly acknowledge that. I think Mr. Ryan would as well.
Do you agree now, by the way? Sorry, you and Eamon Ryan.
We both agree that nothing's decided, and it hasn't been, by the way. And it certainly wouldn't have been the intention of anyone in government to show disrespect to our citizens and to our voters. That's not the way we operate. Ultimately we rely on the support of citizens and voters to continue in our jobs, and we would never deliberately disrespect people. But I can understand why people may feel that way, because particularly for people who heat their homes with turf, just to kind of hear that something was happening and then it wasn't happening, it's not very professional on our part, and I know can cause anxiety for people, and that definitely was never our intention. What this is about is it's about air quality, and the truth is burning sod turf, burning smoky coal, burning wet wood puts particles into the air, and those particles get into your lung, can cause lung cancer. They get into your blood, can cause strokes and heart attacks. And whether you live in rural Ireland or urban Ireland, people are entitled to better air quality, and that's our objective. 1,300 people die 10 years earlier than they should every year because of our poor air quality. So we need to do something about it. The biggest culprit is actually smoky coal, a lot of it being imported from Northern Ireland, where their environmental laws are weaker than ours. Hopefully the new executive might change that. So we need to do something to improve our air quality, but it needs to be done the right way. And I'm very much of the view that people who save turf, who have their own turf, should be continued to be able to do that.
But Eamon Ryan says that's for 2022. But when these new rules come into effect in September, if they're agreed as he wants them, things could be very different for 2023. So he's giving assurances effectively. He believes all the turf will be saved and it'll start being burnt before September. 2023 is only next year, obviously. What will be life for people who cut their own turf? Maybe give it to their elderly neighbours, maybe sell a few bags. Will they be able to do that in 2023?
Well, first of all, no regulations are agreed yet.
But he keeps suggesting that this is going to be the law in September.
I think he's expressing his intention there, but just to be clear, no regulations have been signed off by government yet. They haven't. And all three parties will have to sign off on them. What I can say to people who, save and burn their own turf, that's their own business. Government's not going to intervene in that at all. The question really is around distribution, gifting turf to other people or the sale of it. And that's where we need to work something out. I think where people have traditionally given turf as a gift to somebody, maybe a relative, a friend, an elderly neighbour, that should be allowed to continue. And I think selling on a small scale should be allowed to continue as well. But what's happening too much, particularly in the Midlands, is sod turf and wet wood being sold in petrol stations, being sold in retail outlets, being burnt in housing estates, and that's not good, because that is damaging the air quality in rural towns in particular, and that has health impacts on everyone.
Okay, I know we've only got a couple of minutes. You've a busy agenda. Just to Northern Ireland, counting of votes is beginning now. If things play out as are being predicted, and listen, we're not going to hold you to this because we simply don't know, but we're getting indications, of course, we have for some time that Sinn Féin could be the biggest party in Northern Ireland. The Middle Ground Alliance doing very well, of course, as well. Have you any confidence that a government and executive can be formed in Northern Ireland post this election?
I think it will be. I just
soon.
Hope,
sorry, I should say.
Yeah, well, I hope it'll take weeks or months and not years. And we've seen too many breaches and breaks in the continuity of the executive in the past. The votes are only being counted, so we're going to need to see what happens. I think Sinn Féin will emerge as the largest party, but not because their vote will be up; it might actually be down. The reason why they'll emerge as the largest party is the unionist vote is fractured among three parties. And what we may see actually is the combined nationalist vote going down, the combined unionist vote going down, and the middle ground, made up of Alliance and the Greens, actually being the ones that are growing. And that is interesting, because that is a change in the politics of Northern Ireland that many of us, including me, have hoped to see for a very long time. People actually going away from the sectarian parties and supporting parties that are cross-community. And that, I think, raises an opportunity, because if you go back to the original Good Friday Agreement, it wasn't the case that the biggest party got the First Minister's job. When you go back to the original Good Friday Agreement, it was to be a cross-community vote. And I think that's the space that we may need to explore after this. The First Minister and the Deputy First Minister, they're just titles. They're actually co-equal. It's bragging rights in many ways. And are we really going to not have an executive for 2 years or 3 years because of bragging rights? Why not have a joint First Minister?
Yep.
So these are the kind of things I think we'll need to discuss.
Last two questions. Do you think your party will be in government after the next election? Do you think it might suit your party maybe for a period of opposition? I know you're prepared to take your party into opposition, but obviously you felt that you had to work with Fianna Fáil to put a functioning government into place. It's a long way away, of course, and you may do very, very well. But do you think maybe Irish politics and the Republic needs a break from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael working together, maybe for both the parties to establish their single identities again?
Well, I think the problem is that is there would be very negative consequences. Almost certainly the alternative to the current government would be a Sinn Féin-led government. And the effects of that, I think, not immediately, but within a year or two, would be a decline in our economy, a loss of jobs and investment, people's standard of living and incomes falling. They have a very different view of the European Union than us. They are a Euro-critical party. We're soft on Russia until very recently. I wouldn't like to see that being our position in Brussels or in Europe. We see on issues like climate, for example, where they're against any climate action that is anyway unpopular, and that's the biggest crisis of our time. And while they talk a lot about housing, they're not particularly in favour of home ownership. And we see them opposing private housing developments all over the show.
No, well, I think that was fact-checked by the Journal, in fairness, but I take your point. The government gets an awful lot of criticism on programmes like these, so that's why I'm letting you...
No, it's fair enough. So I can hear what you're saying, like we're in our third term in government, and I'm sure there are loads of people in my party who would, or there are a number of people in my party, not the majority, who might take the view, it's time for a break, time to rebuild.
But you're not of that view?
No, I'm not, because the reason why I'm in politics isn't just to advance Fine Gael. The reason why I'm in politics is to build a better country and a better community. I think the government that we have, while it's imperfect, is doing well. We're making progress as a country. Outperformed lots of other countries, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the economy, whether it's living standards, and I don't want to see Ireland go backwards. Okay. I hate this idea that let's give people a taste of Sinn Féin and then they might appreciate us more. Like, I hate that attitude, because that means people having to suffer, and I don't want to see that.
Okay, very finally, when do you hope to hear from the DPP as it relates to the Garda investigation, their consideration of it?
Well, I don't know. I've no indication. You'll understand for very good reasons.
Of course.
I don't want to speculate about timelines or hypotheticals, because I don't want to say anything that might be perceived as me putting pressure on independent office. I'm not going to do that. But what I can say is that the allegations that were made against me are false. They're politically motivated.
But you didn't do the right thing in making that document available, did you?
Well, the allegation is that I committed some sort of crime. Or
but I didn't ask that question. But do you think it was befitting of your position to do what you did?
I acknowledge that I didn't do the right thing in that regard. I did it for a good reason. The government had made a commitment that we would consult both of the GP bodies. That commitment hadn't been honoured. I took it into my own hands to honour that commitment. You're often told in politics, intervene personally, pick up the phone, sort this out, Minister. That's what I did. But in doing so, I left myself exposed.
But you say that the allegations are...
I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, that you said the allegations are politically...
I did it for good reasons, and I did it in the public interest.
Yeah, but you're saying the allegations are politically motivated, presumably not suggesting that the Gardaí were influenced politically to conduct their investigation.
No.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Also an important meeting in Milford. You're meeting with Declan Meehan as well to meet the Ukrainian community there. Just very finally, sorry, I meant to mention that earlier.
Looking forward to that, and just really want to express my appreciation and recognition of communities across Donegal who have welcomed Ukrainians into their communities. And we're all watching on television the horrors that people are experiencing in that country, and I just really want to express my thanks to anyone who's been involved in the efforts, not just in Milford, anywhere in Donegal or the country where people have been welcomed into communities, because they really need it.
Yeah, I might ask Declan Meehan to join your party, maybe. He's got political aspirations. I don't know. Okay, listen.
I don't know Declan, but hopefully they will after today.
We'll see after your conversation. I asked him this last Friday. He says no, he's not interested. But anyway, listen. Thanks very much for your time this morning. I appreciate it greatly.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €195 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
They say you should have your second baby first, because with your second baby, you'll have learned what to do, what not to do, what's best for baby and best for you. Like the Loopy Loo range from Lidl. Everything your baby needs, including award-winning nappies from only 99¢. When you know what to do, Loopy Loo. Available exclusively at Lidl. More for you. See our full range at lidl.ie/Loopy Loo.
The hilarious Three Hail Marys is coming to Letterkenny.
God, he was beautiful. Big, brown, watery eyes on him, like an Aberdeen Angus bullock.
See Three Hail Marys at Grainon Theatre, Letterkenny for one night only, Friday, May 13th. See on grainon.com or call 074 9120777.
The fishermen working the seas off Ireland bring us a real bounty every day. Like Irish crab meat, low in fat and brim full of protein, omega-3 and essential vitamins and minerals. For lunch or dinner, Irish crab meat is a delicious shellfish you can buy cooked and ready to go in your supermarket or fishmongers. For great recipes online, like crab pasta with cherry tomatoes and basil, visit boardbia.ie/crab and make everyday meals amazing.
McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing and Tiles, serving the Northwest for over 40 years. Explore our showroom with more than 40 displays. Choose from an array of shower doors, shower trays, baths and bathroom accessories. Speak with an expert about tile selection and wall paneling. We also stock an array of plumbing, heating and stove spare parts, as well as a great selection of kitchen mixers and radiators at our trade counter. Our stove department is also available for you to choose a style that suits your needs and complements your home. McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing, Tiles, Buncrana. We're here for you.
Whoa! That anti-gravity slide is unbelievable, Marion!
You know what else is unbelievable?
Fake tan?
No, that 90% of money spent on the National Lottery goes back into the community.
Yeah, right.
It does. Most of it goes into prizes, of course. Good causes get a big chunk, and there's all the shopkeepers too. 90%.
That is unbelievable.
But true.
The National Lottery. Support responsibly. 90% based on most recent audited accounts.
On this week's Business Matters, I'll be joined by Buncrana-based Irish designer Bernie Murphy. So join me, Ciarán O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. Looking for a career in financial services? Consider the Level 9 MA in Governance, Compliance and Data Protection. Take the next step in your career and contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 or email execed, EXECED @lyit.ie today.
This Sunday afternoon, as part of a huge doubleheader at Clonus, the Donegal senior ladies begin their quest for an Ulster title against Cavan. Join us on Highland for full live match commentary on air from the 1:45 throw-in and online at highlandradio.com. Coverage of the Donegal senior ladies in the Ulster Championship is in association with Henry McGinley and Sons Limited, Milford, Donegal, for all your general engineering queries, corner lintels and specialised fabrication. Call for a quote on 074 9153 181.
There's a gaggle of monsters you'll see around town, in every colour from bright pink to brown. And just like us, they have hopes, dreams and wishes. A new car, new windows, a holiday diving with fishes. They know just where to go for their dreams to come true. The local credit union who can help you out too. For all of your dreams that are big, small or strange, we've got you covered with our Monster Loan range. Monster Loans from the Credit Union. Imagine more. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. If you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Sabrina Robb here from Donegal Hearing Clinic. If you're struggling to hear everyday conversations or find it difficult to understand people in a crowded room, you may have hearing loss. Problems like these are common and we're used to helping people resolve them. We offer hearing assessments and will discuss your options. You can call us on 074 91 88 470 or visit donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Okay, keep your calls and comments coming into us. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call 074 91 25,000. Now, apologies, we didn't get the news at 11 and we are eating into the entertainment slot, but it's not often we get access to the government party leaders, the leaders of the government parties, so we ran with that. I hope you understand. We're going to be joined very shortly now by our guests to discuss all things entertainment. Okey-doke, Micheal Leddy, writer and blogger. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Greg.
Good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Also, we have a special guest, Conor Malone, manager of the Bala Arts Centre. Conor, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's great to
Thanks
have
for
you
calling
with
me
us.
special.
Yes, of course you are. Well, you're not fanulous. That instantly elevates you above normal.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Trying to set it up for next week. Conor, you're back busy again. It's great, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think we're back open since February, so
Yeah.
and it's starting to kick in now because the acts are actually getting back on the road now, and it's not a case of just you get bread on the shelf tomorrow. It takes a while, but. Yeah, we're booking up well for the year, and kind of it's really looking like, especially when we hit September, October, November, we'll be flat out back to normal, which is great.
Early doors, even though everything would have been lifted and people were allowed to do whatever they want, there probably was still a little bit of apprehension. Are we seeing that going now? Or maybe I'm misstating it.
It's definitely apprehension in some quarters, but I think what it is as well, and it was somebody said it to me about 2 weeks ago, and I went, actually, that's a really good point. People have kind of trained themselves over the last 2 years to entertain themselves sitting in, and are out of the habit of going out, and that's going to change back slowly. I read somewhere, I thought it was fascinating. There was a law passed in the 50s in Sweden, and overnight road traffic accidents went down by 25%. And what it was they switched from driving on the left-hand side of the road to driving on the right-hand side of the road. So everybody was ultra careful, on the right-hand side of the road. And they were being so careful that all the traffic collisions numbers went down. But as they got used to driving on the right-hand side of the road, and it was over 6 months, it went back to its normal level.
Unbelievable.
And apparently that's the way the human brain is wired. We change back to our level over a 6 month
And
period.
it will bounce back because there's a huge appetite for it. But what we've seen in the past, I don't think nightclubs ever fully recovered from the recession. I think, you talk about people being trained out, and maybe even to some extent the rural pub scene, maybe.
Yes.
I just don't think so. the arts definitely are coming back, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. I like this thing that you have, and I was looking at the lineup for the Ghostlight sessions. This is a once a month thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I think we started about 2017, and it's a live monthly original music night. So we have 3 acts every month, and they do a 30-minute slot each. And in the last couple of years, it's great. We've got Arts Council funding. So every act that plays gets a live mixed and mastered EP of their set that they own. They can, press and sell at gigs. They can put it on Bandcamp, iTunes, monetize it whatever way they want. So that's kind of allowed us to attract a better caliber of act because there's more in it for them, obviously. So kind of coming back after lockdown, we kind of reassessed and said we're going to try and move to the next level. So what we've actually done for the rest of the year, we give them all co-billing, but we'll call it the headline act. We have one really tasty band booked for the rest of the year for each Ghostlight sessions, and now we're just kind of filling in the second and third slots.
But like, it's the next one's 14th of May. You've got DK, the Midnight Preachers, Lauren Bird. But it's good to see performers like DK getting a proper platform, and I'm wondering where else outside of maybe festivals or what have you, where an artist is a rap artist, isn't it?
He's a rap artist. He's from Strabane.
Yeah, where someone like that might get a platform. I think it's a really good stage for something that a big portion of the population might go, younger people, whatever, might go, it's great to see. That's a real opportunity to see someone up there. Spitting lyrics. Where else would you see? So I think you deserve a round of applause for your booking acts like that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's niche. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's niche, but you know what I'm on about. Like,
absolutely. I have to give credit now. It's a guy, Dean Maywood, who does the booking for the Ghostlight sessions. So I'd have to give him his dibs for that. But the great thing about it as well is that, say, if you take May's one and you have those 3 acts, so DK is a rapper, Midnight Preachers are kind of rocky blues, and then Lauren Bird is kind of more on the folk singer-songwriter. So you're introducing, if somebody comes to hear the Midnight Preachers and they go, I wouldn't go to a rap show, but then they're hearing DK and they're actually going, oh, hang on a second.
And also too, one of the biggest shows in music, I think, that most respected would be the likes of Jules Holland's show, which is very much like that. He could go from eclectic a DK to the Midnight Preachers to Lauren Bird, whereas maybe other people booking are conditioned to think, well, we have to keep a trend going here.
Hit a demo.
If you like hip hop, there's no way you're going to like Lauren Bird. That's nonsense.
No, there's only 2 types of music: good music and bad music.
That's it. Michael, I mean, you're on stage as well. We've talked about it a few times. It's good to see the gigs back. And
and I was actually over last night. I was over in Conor's neck of the woods, and I was in, and there was a great crowd. We were chatting about it out here. I don't know what you were chatting about in here, but we were chatting about that outside. And there was a great crowd, and you do get the vibe that things are coming very close to being back, I think, and it's great, and people are more confident. And it's
I think the Ed Sheeran gig. Sorry, I mean, I know it's not quite as cool as the bands that lined up with, but for me that was the line somewhat drawn. I thought, well, after that.
Did you see, actually, there was a great picture someone had up on Facebook. It was of a girl at the Ed Sheeran gig. And while at the gig, she was watching the Limerick Waterford hurling match on her phone.
Yes,
but listen, come here. That was Des Cahill posted that. I can understand that because you get in there about 4 o'clock, right, and nothing's happening. And the strange thing about that gig was that there was 2 warm-up acts for the night I was there, and they come on. One came on at 6 and finished or 6:15 and finished like 20 to 7. And they didn't have the sound up right for them. Must have been complaints from residents. And then there was nothing. And then there was another girl come on then at something like 20 past 7 till 10 to 8. And then nothing. No announcement, no continuity, nothing. And then Ed Sheeran come on. I just thought they could have done that a bit better for the support acts. But anyway, there were probably reasons for that. Then they blasted up the sound for him. But he's very good. He's talented. He's not on any of my Spotify playlists, but... there's no doubt that fella is good stuff. All right, that's the DK, the Midnight Preachers, Lauren Bird in the Ballard Arts Centre on the 14th of May, and they're going to go monthly right through to November, so keep your ears pricked for that. I'm sure we'll be talking about that during this item.
Of course it'll come up.
Doctor Strange, I see Benedict how's you watch or whatever his name is doing the rounds. What is his name?
Benedict Cumberbatch. But that
I was going
joke,
to say Benedict Arnold.
but that joke you made is really on point for something that happens in the film. It's like I'm like, was Greg in the cinema yesterday behind me? Were you there somewhere?
No, I wasn't.
No, I know you weren't. No, you see, it's Fanula. It's Fanula is the cool one. It's Greg is just here.
Oh, and I'm so happy not to be I am so happy to be not cool in this context. This is Doctor Strange 2, is it?
It's Doctor Strange 2, but it's like the fourth time we've seen this actor playing this character in a major.
He was in the last Spider-Man, wasn't he?
He was in Spider-Man, and he was in that Infinity War Avengers. I know as I get more and more into the details of these things, the eyes of Greg Hughes will glaze over.
I'm following you.
But you're on board. So basically, look, anyone that wants to see this will go and see it. It doesn't matter what I say, so I'll keep it short and sweet. I really love this movie. Sam Raimi is the big selling point for this movie. He was the guy long before the Spider-Man movies. He did things like the Evil Dead movies, the coolest movies of the 1980s. And this is his chance to get his hands on the Marvel franchise. I said, coming out of the cinema, there's a couple of lads standing around, I said, Sam Raimi's...
Did you know them?
Fingerprint. Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
I'm just saying, if it's a couple of lads standing around, you just go up and say, Sam, hold on, over
That's
here,
happened.
Sam Ray.
That's happened to me. That happened to me after Star Trek, the first Star Trek movie. There was a bunch of us
I
stood
have
around,
stuff to tell.
and we all stood around chatting for ages. But I was saying, Sam Raimi's fingerprints are on this movie, and one of the other lads says, fingerprints, his handprints are all over it. He grabbed this movie. This is very much Sam Raimi does Evil Dead inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's so cool to see him do a horror film. It's the first time Marvel has gone for a horror film.
Dark, it is.
It's dark, and moments of it are scary, and that's what some reviewers have liked. This, it's got about 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. Some critics have said, "Wow, you expect Marvel movies to be kid friendly."
Yeah.
The TV shows are increasingly getting darker. Like we've talked about Punisher, you and I, and Moon Knight, which finished this week, was quite dark and violent. Doctor Strange pushes the envelope. I wouldn't say, I think it's a 12 cert.
Yeah.
So I think that's with good reason. There are moments.
Is it all this stuff though?
Yeah,
bending things.
it's all that stuff. Yeah, it's all that stuff.
I watched all of these films, but the Doctor Strange one, all this bendy, and then you go through that whole. You're in
there's a lot of
different place.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, Greg.
I'm not to go with it.
I'm not selling Greg on this at all. I don't know what I could say now about Doctor Strange to sell Greg on it. Oh, there's loads of Ed Sheeran songs in the soundtrack.
Is Wanda in it?
Yes.
He's got to say, is that a spoiler?
It's not a spoiler because I think you have to tell people you have to have seen WandaVision to really appreciate the emotional weight of this movie. Some of these things will land better if you've seen WandaVision. This is a continuation of her story from WandaVision. You don't need to have seen the Avengers movies. You don't even need to necessarily have seen the first Doctor Strange, though it would help. The What If animated series would help, but it's not essential. The only thing you really
sounds
need
like
to,
a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
You don't have to
but
do
it's
it.
fun work. It's fun work.
See, this is the problem with this world.
Yes.
Is that you feel like, I could watch everything you've watched, and I still couldn't make the connections you've just made. Because I wouldn't know that.
Could.
But then you get the people
bit.
that say, you have to watch these 48 shows in this order to get the proper narrative. And you're like, I have other things to do
in life.
And I just want to have
Greg,
fun.
this is more obvious. It's not like a couple of weeks ago when I was saying
He's
to Greg...
so defensive at the moment.
No.
The more you smile when you're speaking, it's like, listen to me, I'm saying something important.
When we were talking about Better Call Saul, and I was saying to you how Kim pointed at Jimmy and
that
what
was embarrassing.
You were like, you were like,
I cut that out of the replay.
But come here, do you know the other thing that kind of bugs me about the whole Marvel thing, right? Is that you have these guys that have watched all 48 movies in the correct order, right?
Yes, he's sitting beside you.
That then spend all their time trying to find the plot holes and what's wrong. It's like, I love these movies so much, I'm going to try and find... It's like me saying, I love my wife so much, I'm going to go around pointing out her faults all the time.
Yeah.
If you like it that much, just...
I'm in that camp.
In fairness,
but there are lads like
exactly
that.
The ones.
They're lads you're talking
and
about.
also to the same people, they can't judge a film a standalone. Do you know what I mean? Their views are going to be changed by what they believe it should be or what went before. Which is quite surprising. And if Doctor Strange is a little bit different, that it's being broadly welcomed, because it's like, and we've seen this before with things like Star Wars. Star Wars. The fans, they want to write it, produce it, and
that's not the ending I wanted.
Exactly. Go back.
And it's this thing of what you have to put your own baggage to the side. And one of the other lads that I was talking to yesterday outside was saying, I got to stop going on websites and reading all these rumours because I expected loads of things to happen that didn't happen. So you're weighing up the film against. And my answer to that, and I was about to say that to you as well, Conor, before we came in, that if you're going to see, if you're a songwriter, if a songwriter comes into you, Greg, and they've written a song, you take it on its merits. You don't say, I was expecting a love song, but that's a song about your father. I don't like it. Or if you go to see a painter,
but it talks to Conor's comments about the ownership, in the sense of, you love it so much you want to destroy it almost, or you want to find the faults in it. But what are you giving it out of 10? Because you're the only view I'm interested in.
Oh, thank you very much, Greg. You see, this is why I come in to see Greg every week, and I'll miss him next Friday.
Where are you going?
I won't be able to. I can't come in. I've told Caroline I won't be in. Unfortunately,
I need a note.
I have a note from my mammy. Michael hasn't done his homework because he's sitting up late watching Hill Street Blues and he didn't do his homework, would be the truth. On Monday nights, I'll give it 10 out of 10 because I'm so happy to see Sam Raimi doing his thing, and I love those Evil Dead movies, and I was so happy to see his fingerprints on this, and I loved seeing Wanda get her dues in another chapter of her ongoing story.
A caller says, lol, it's easy seeing that was your first gig, Greg. There's never any continuity between support acts to the main acts at the gigs. I've been going to them for the last 30 years. Okay, well.
That's in the bigger venues. The continuity is impeccable in the Ballard or Green.
What's the box office number again? What's the view on Dolly Parton being induced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Connor, have you followed? I mean, I don't know where the controversy or scandal is. I mean, rock and roll's a broad church. I mean, she's a country artist.
I think it goes back to the ownership issue, doesn't it? And everybody wants their view to be the one that's represented. If you asked me personally, I go, she's country and western.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But, if they want to put her into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and she wants to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's probably 742 things I get exercised about before.
Yes.
And just like the one thing I mean, obviously the boys have to listen to had to listen to the music I liked before earpods went in, and they can't hear anything I ever say or do. But
Ed Sheeran all the time, is it?
No. The one thing they loved it though. The one thing I said to them though is don't sort of pigeonhole yourself into one particular music. Listen to all types of music. Aaron he'll go from listening to drill to something from the 80s. Do you know what I mean? And he's got such a huge eclectic taste.
Great.
That's the only one thing. I didn't want them to listen to 90s like I did or whatever. I want them to listen to whatever they want, but don't say I only like grunge or I only like this, because they miss out on so much.
One of my proudest moments, I was driving my daughter, I think she was about 14 or 15 at the time, to Dublin, and I had an iPod shuffle playing through the car, and it had just
everything.
All songs and everything on it, and we're about halfway down, we're going through Monaghan, and she goes, you have really good taste in music.
Oh.
For a 15-year-old to say that. And it was all this old stuff, kind of. You might have had a couple of 80s, but predominantly 60s and 70s. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah, I shouldn't really say this, but I do play a game. I'll go back and play a song in the car that I like, and then I'll keep my eye on the boys,
Yes.
And I'll see if they look at the screen and go, all right, you know what I mean? And take down and go, yes. And then about 2 days later, you hear it in the playlist when they're having one of their 6-hour showers. I must get Eimear and Ryan actually. Although to be honest with you, it's a struggle getting them into the shower, so we'll not complain too much. Right? Okay, we're in the company.
Is one of them living with me? Because one of my housemates, but I'm oversharing now.
Apparently, they have to avoid you outside the cinema. Micheal Leddy, writer and blogger. Conor Malone, manager of the Ballot Arts Centre. More from the guys after we take this break. Keep your text coming in too, by the way. 086 60 25,000.
Farmers to be paid €100 per hectare for silage and hay. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We have all the details of the new silage scheme targeting beef and sheep farmers. Major Teagasc U-turn and suckler beef advice. The beef trade is booming. We reveal the reasons why and will it last, and find out how you could save thousands by switching mortgage provider.
Plus, don't miss our baled silage special, only inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
By choosing Donegal Creameries milk, you're supporting over 200 dairy farming families across Donegal in doing what they do best, producing delicious, fresh milk every day. For over 100 years, Donegal Creameries milk has been brought to you daily from our dairy at Crossroads, Killygordon, the longest established creamery in the region. Support local farms, local families and local jobs by choosing Donegal Creameries milk.
Treat your garden to a makeover at GMG Stone Letterkenny. We offer great value on decorative stone, garden paving, slabs and artificial grass. All tailored to your needs with home delivery available. We also supply railway sleepers, whiskey barrels and place sand. All available for pickup or delivery. Open Monday to Saturday from 9:30am to 6pm. You will find us beside Donaghy Motorhomes on the Port Road. For an appointment, call 087 647 9121. GMG Stone, just what your garden needs.
At your local Centra, we have great offers this week. Like Centra Fresh Irish Round Steak Mince 500 gram, only €3. Half price Meridian Crunchy and Smooth Peanut Butter 1 kilo, now $4.94 each. And Chic Pepe Rosé Wine, only €10. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy cold sensibly.
Donegal's Ulster Championship campaign continues this Sunday in Clonus, with Declan Boner's side looking to book a place in the provincial final. But to make the decider, they'll first have to overcome Cavan. Join Oisín Kelly and Brendan Kilcoyne for the build-up and full live match commentary from St Tiernock's Park on Sunday afternoon. Donegal action in the Ulster Championship is brought to you by Highland Motors Letterkenny, main Renault dealer in Donegal, stocking the new Arcana E-Tech Hybrid, voted the medium crossover SUV of the year for 2022 at the Irish Car of the Year Awards.
Michael, you didn't mention Ozark. You haven't started the tail end of the last season yet,
No, I'm on the first half of the last season, and I've blocked the word Ozark on Twitter so I can avoid spoilers. Have you finished the show?
Oh,
Greg?
no, I just want to finish it now. It's like wading through treacle, if you know what I mean. It feels like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I was not overly impressed with the tail end of season 3, which I finished a couple of weeks ago. I watch it on Monday nights. I just have my routine. I'm 2 episodes into season 4. Without giving any spoilers, I'm not agreeing with some of the choices. The character choices don't feel earned in some cases, particularly concerning Ruth, I can say. But I like what's happening inside the family. There's family conflict that I feel.
You don't think it's been playing out for too long now, no?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I'm ready for the ending, and I still have 12 episodes to go.
Because
I'm enjoying it.
good shows sort of set up a series of sort of falls or scenarios. And I just think I'm watching it, and maybe it's my mood, and I'll have to rewatch it again in a year or so. I just don't feel like I just want it to all end now. The characters, the wife's particularly getting annoying, you know?
Oh, I would argue maybe that Wendy is the best thing about it because she
does that smile.
She's dangerous.
Yeah, but she is.
Yeah,
and her danger increases.
Maybe I'm smiling because I just enjoy
your. I don't know.
I gave up on Ozark after 4 episodes of season 1. Should I go back?
Yeah, it's very good.
What was it you didn't like about it?
Do you know, I just went, there's no real character in this I like, and I don't really care what happens next to any of them, and I just kind of found something else to watch with characters that I could.
See, with television, you have to be invested. We've talked about this before. You'll only watch 8 seasons of House if you like.
Yeah. But so many people have said it to me, you should have stuck with it. It got brilliant.
Well, I thought my argument there is like I thought it was strong at the start.
It is. But I mean, as I said, I've said many times, I had to watch the first series of Breaking Bad 3 times before I actually kicked in.
Yes,
you know,
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah,
was it that episode where Walter pointed at somebody a certain way?
I think it was the terminal illness element of it that was that I don't know what it was.
But like, everybody's just talked to random strangers outside.
that freaked me out. I had to switch off after that. But the Missing, I watched The Missing, I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago with Nesbitt, he's in it, and it was the exact same. There was not one character, even given the subject matter, there's not one character I had any sympathy for now, so I know what you're on about. You have to sort of...
You do.
Yeah, and even Big Ruth time. Is not, I don't know what, am I supposed to be angry with Ruth? Am I supposed to be pulling for her?
That's a really good question.
I don't know, or the mum and dad. Yeah. The children are just annoying. So, like, who am I...
invested in?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Who do I want to see get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
And who do I want to see
I was
ride
a bit
off
like
into
that
the
towards
sunset?
the
I don't
end
know.
of Game of Thrones. I was really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but I was like, other than Peter Dinklage, obviously, whose character had redeeming qualities the whole way through, everyone else I didn't really, I was like, do I care enough about any of them anymore? Whereas against that, with, again, coming back to Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, I'm very invested in Jimmy and very invested in Kim. Very invested. I care about those people and worry about their future.
I think in hindsight, probably should have waited till all of the last series of Ozark was available and then watched it all
As a
like I
block.
normally would. Yep.
Yeah, as a...
The complete season of Line of Duty is on RTE Player. I mean, this is, I think it's the best show come out of Britain, personally. It's on your list, Conor. You're late to this, or have you just spotted that it's available and now's a good time to recommend it? Or maybe you're saying steer clear. I don't know.
No, absolutely loving it. No, I'm very late to it. We were just discussing this outside because I was wondering what I was going to talk about.
Greg hates that.
I have really weird viewing habits.
Yes.
And it's because, I'm working a lot of evenings and I coach underage hurling and there's matches in the evenings. So I'm out nearly every evening.
Yeah.
And so my viewing pattern is I'll come home, say about 11, half 11. Everybody's in bed. It's probably the only time I can get near the
Sounds
TV
like
in
heaven.
the house. Anyway, yeah. And I will have my pick box set and I will stick it on and I'll watch an episode, maybe two if I can get there. And I will watch it like that. And because of that, I'm always come very late to stuff. I'm never watching it when it's like in the zeitgeist, which totally suits me because I'm avoiding all that chatter. You're avoiding all that,
the hype as well.
People's theories.
And theories as well.
Expectations.
So I started watching Line of Duty from season 1 and I'd never seen it about a month ago. And I'm absolutely loving it. I think it's great. I love, as the difference between when you have, what is there? There's 6 seasons, so there's 36 episodes. You have 36 hours that you develop characters and develop a story, as opposed to 2 hours of a film. And you get, it's not black and white. You get to see about 27 different sides, and you still don't have a clue who's trustworthy and who's not.
But you do root for characters.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you do want to see their downfall, and that sort of ties into what we were saying, doesn't it?
I'm just, at the bit where I can do spoilers, can't I? It's
Yeah,
just where Steve,
I'll put my fingers in my ears. Go on.
Steve is thrown down the stairs and he's in a wheelchair. And the last episode I saw, Kate has gone up to the flat and he said, I don't know if I'll ever recover, and he's crying. And I'm sitting there last night going to bed going,
what do you think of Steve as a lead character? He's not your traditional sort of lead.
No, and you know what I think it is that he's small.
Right.
You're used to having,
Yeah.
taller.
It's true.
And, now and again.
This isn't Stephen Graham, is it?
No, this is Steve Arnott, the actual character.
Oh, okay.
Now and again, I find him a wee bit smug and annoying sometimes, but then he'll do something that'll make you root for him,
Yeah.
And
that's a good sign of writing, though, isn't it? And acting.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like, everybody has their little negative attributes. Same as your mates. Like, there's things about your mates that just annoy you as well, So they're really well-rounded characters. They're really believable characters, and really well-rounded. You know, where you're watching something and you're going, I know how this is going to turn out. But you can't really do that. I can't do that. With
it's good. It is. It's
really
very well written over the course, and I like the fact that it is. 6 episodes seems a good period of time to tell a story well.
Yes.
And each season is a separate investigation, separate story.
Obviously, there's bent coppers in every one of them, but
yes.
And there's themes in the H character, isn't there? But
I just got introduced in the episode I'm watching, so that only comes in later in season 4.
Seeing as you spoiled it for Michael, let's go. No, but it becomes obviously a theme. I thought it was throughout, but I have a terrible memory. But no, it's a good show. How have you found dealing with the RTE player?
Right, if you're used to Netflix, it's like, you've traded in your good car for an old banger.
Yeah, with a dodgy clutch.
Now, not as bad as its reputation.
It
What's
has a bad
really
rep, yeah, it has
annoying
a
is, like, for example, I went on last night and, there was 2 options in continue watching, and none of them were Line of Duty, which is the only thing I've been watching for the last...
Someone's slipping in when you're doing the hurling training.
But you think it should still be there. So then you go in, you find Line of Duty, and it's continue watching, and it gives me season 1, episode 1. So I have to actually remember
where you left off.
Where I left off.
That's a torture, yeah.
And last night, actually, only for the first time did I just stop playing randomly in the middle of it, which I understand is a big issue. So I've been fairly lucky with it. I just get by the little frustrations, and you're all right.
All right, listen. Let's talk about White Hot on Netflix.
Yes,
Michael.
yes.
What is this about?
Documentary.
Good to see you going back to the documentary.
I know, yeah.
Although before you get to that, I thought it really quite peculiar. There's a film called something 365 Days or something. It's the #1 trending film in Ireland, and it has been for a couple of weeks. So I must actually Google it here.
Yeah.
So I Googled it, right? It's got like 1% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
But it's been #1 in Ireland for youngs. So I dug a little deeper, and it turns out that it's a lot of hanky-panky in it. I don't know how I can say it at this time of the morning.
If Fanula was here, she'd say, your
You
grandmother...
couldn't watch it in front of your grandmother. That's right.
Can't watch
That's
this.
why she does it.
Fanula's grandmother is the most sheltered woman. She has no idea what people look like with even their shirts opened, never mind off. I've never heard of that film, but
but he's away to check it out.
I feel like, do I have to stay here till 12 o'clock? Can I go now? Can I check it out?
I don't know, and I have not seen any of it, but it's not consistently #1 for the last
And
while.
it's in the cinema? No, streaming.
No.
Streaming.
It's I think it's in the 50 Shades sort of territory. I don't know, but anyway.
It's not. You didn't say it was a documentary, no?
No, his is a documentary.
White
Hot.
Documentary, yeah.
Go on.
White Hot, yes. And I have to say, because I was ferried through the town by Cllr McGarvey this morning, and I have to say that Micheal Leddy brought to you today by Cllr McGarvey, to give him his credit, because he loves the entertainment slot, and he constantly takes issue with me over like dissing Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that I supposedly have
Someone
done.
said to me recently, he says, the best thing about Highland Radio is, and I says, what? He says, Michael. I says, Michael, we don't have any presenters called Michael. This is kind of how the conversation went. I says, Michael who? He says, Michael that's on a Friday. He says, he's the best thing on Highland Radio. No, he says it's the best thing on Highland Radio. I love listening to it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Wow, okay, that's brilliant.
Okay, so that's
Greg
two people.
Cllr loves the spot, but he says, I love the spot. He says, but it's Greg I have the crush on, not you. It's Greg. That's what he said to me. I was getting out of the car this morning. That's what he said.
This slot is turn off for a lot of people, and other people actually don't listen to anything else on the program except this.
Oh.
It's kind of Marmite, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, it would be, of course, yeah. But as you've said numerous times, and it's true, you have to have that bit of fun, I think, to get into the weekend. You just have to, it's important to have the important stuff talked about, but you have to have this as well. White Hot is a documentary on Netflix, and it's about Abercrombie and Finch, and they were a big, well, they still are, clothing brand in America going back like a century. But in the 1990s, they were white hot, and they had somebody new took over, and this individual, this guy, put his own stamp on the brand. And what has come out and came out over the 90s into 2002, it became apparent that they were super hot, they were super popular in the 1990s, but it was obvious that they had very specific measures as to who they hired. It wasn't just that they had to hire good looking people. So we'd say if myself and Greg both went for a job in there, Greg would be in the shop, I'd be in the storeroom. There wouldn't be a hope in hell I'd get, this wouldn't happen for me. But it was also that they had done up handbooks on what was considered good looking. And it was obvious that if you were of a certain ethnic background that wasn't, we say, white, then you weren't good looking. Wow. So it just became a huge issue. There was other issues as well. So this documentary looks at that. I enjoyed this more than, remember I watched that other one, the Elon Musk Return to Space one. I thought I'd enjoy the outer space one more because I'm interested in that side of things. But because I am not a dedicated follower of fashion, this was all new to me. I knew a lot of the other one because I do follow the SpaceX thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But I didn't have a clue who this brand was. I didn't even know about the scandal. So I enjoyed the documentary because it was new to me. But it's not a very weighty documentary. And I thought to myself, the practices that they were doing, they're probably quite common across a lot of brands in America.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But
the only thing is that my concern is that you've started watching documentaries, but you seem to be watching crap ones.
Well, I'm watching the new ones. I'm like, what's new in the last week or two? So Irla actually said to me he'd recommend some older ones.
What would you give it out of 10?
I give it about I gave the last one 6, so I give this one about a 7 because it's marginally better. And it does look.
But it's not really a 7. You just probably gave too much for the last one, and this is slightly better. So that last one was probably 4 and this is 5. Okay.
Wait till you really see a 10. You won't.
It is. But one thing I would say before, it does raise and it does say, and it comes a little bit at the end. They get away a little bit, and there's a lot of people that were there and people that work there, and they say, what does it say about us as a society?
Yeah, of course.
That we embrace this and this ethos for a full decade, which was all about, the white. It was almost that supreme race thing, but it was embraced across America by teenagers and people, particularly in their early 20s, and they had no problem with it for a long time. And that's the point that I wish the documentary had doubled down on a bit more.
All right, Conor, will there be any more family shows in the Ballard? It's not. I don't think it's a controversial question, but Conor says they'd love to see more family shows in the Ballard.
Family shows, as in.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean. Look, basically the way things are booked is when acts are touring and they contact us or we contact them, it's not a case of you go, right, I'm going to put a family show in on that time. So we actually we have Ballinamore, Garmskull Coola and Ballinamore have their school musical in there in 2 weeks' time. Lovely. On a Thursday and a Friday night. So that will be family-esque. We have I know I have a kind of a Legend of Sleepy Hollow aimed at 6 to 8 year olds booked in around Halloween, but look, there will be more. Brilliant. Okay. Up.
Yeah, as I say, it's a constructive question. It's not.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and it's kind of a bit of a funny time at booking as we're all kind of rushing to catch up again,
Yeah, of course.
So the program is still a wee bit more in flux than it would normally be. Okay. What I would say is I'll get the plug in, ballarartcentre.com, and look at the events that are coming up. We'll update them as we book them.
No problem, plug away. Line of Duty's brilliant. I've been watched Series 5 when I had COVID. Series 6 just finished on RTE on Wednesday night. Brilliant show. Adrian Dunbar is fantastic. RTE player was good for me to binge watch as it had no ads or anything. So I suppose that's if you insert your...
My RTE player has ads. Have I got that?
Well, I was going to just finish the sentence.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe you have to put in your TV license number to avoid the adverts. So you see? Oh, right. Kudos to Conor doing great work for music at the Ballard. Up the Desi from the Monday night sessions team.
Up the Dacia.
Dacia, I don't know. It's spelled Desi.
Waterford hurling team.
Is it? Oh, right, okay. You're from Waterford?
I'm from Waterford, yeah. Okay. I'm Waterford originally.
All right. And we only have a minute or two, so we'll not get into a particular programme. The one act for Garland Night in the Ballard this week, that's over, is it?
That's over, yeah.
Was it good?
Sunday, was it?
Last Sunday, yeah. The Butt Drama Circle, the resident drama group, their one act play won the All Irelands last December.
Fabulous play. Fabulous play.
Between COVID and lockdown and everything, we only actually got around to giving them a proper celebration last Sunday. So
good fun.
They did the play champagne reception and then a busy fun night in the bar afterwards.
Lovely stuff. Okay,
yeah, I heard good things about it.
Right,
yeah.
Listen, both of you, thank you, Conor, for coming up. It's been
my
great to have you. It's been great to have you in, and you as always, Michael.
Yeah, I took a break from chatting to lads about Sam Raimi on the street. So
yes, I can't believe we're not going to have you next week. You're irreplaceable almost. Well, no one's irreplaceable, but you know what I mean. Listen, thanks, Michael. Leddy. Thanks, Conor Malone. We'll be back with the weather after the break.
So you're struggling with your mobile connection?
Yes, I've tried everything.
Have you tried walking in a circle, standing on a chair, shouting instead of speaking?
This is ridiculous.
Best I can do for you, I'm afraid.
Let me be your hero.
Fear not, Super Helpful Mobile has got you covered. With 99% coverage, staying connected has never been easier when you join Tesco Mobile. This is Supermarket Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. 99% population coverage. Visit tescomobile.ie/service-information.
Harry Jack's Diner, Strabane. American-style diner. Ice cream parlor and takeaway. Opening soon at Market Square, Strabane. For the real diner experience, it will have to be Harry Jack's.
Make this gardening season a lot easier with the great range of garden equipment at great prices in Watson Hire Letterkenny. Lawnmowers, trimmers and hedge cutters, scarifiers, power washers and much more for sale and hire. a full range of fertilisers and weed killers, and great deals on paint and decorating accessories. All at Watson Hire, Kiltoy, Letterkenny. For more, see TikTok, Facebook, or visit watsonhire.ie.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €195 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who is the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'd be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'd be them. 07491 43942.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday with the family? You can now fly to Barcelona 3 times weekly this summer with Ryanair and enjoy some of Europe's best family campsites. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so the rain clearing the region now through this late morning and early into the afternoon with sunny spells and well scattered showers. Highest temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees in light to moderate southwesterly winds veering northwesterly after the rain clears. That's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for all your company and contributions. Thanks to Caroline and Donna Marie who worked on the programme. We're back with you on Monday. All being well, stay tuned. John Breslin is coming up around the northwest after the news with Michaela.
It's time for NC